Letters have just announced Christmas will be different this year for thousands of us. New measures are...
Can I come? Come on! I am! I'm coming! Ready? Yeah.
You see, I grew up a bloody screw up. I've always been a little rough around the edges. I run the streets all day where we would play, blowing chase and hopping over fences. Youths offended, bad decisions, good intentions, poor attendance, skip detention. Living life's the only way you ever learn your lesson. Authorities couldn't handle him. In hindsight, they didn't know what was happening when there was never any doubt. Was never chasing clout, I wasn't even chasing any status. And you know you all have to rate us, cause I'll always be a rock star, even if I never get famous. They said you ever get a job it will be dead end. They didn't know that I would grow to be a legend. I'm a rock star, ooh, I'm a rock star. They said you ever get a job it will be dead end. They didn't know that I would grow to be a legend. I'm a rock star, ooh, I'm a rock star. I'm a rock star, ooh, I'm a rock star.
Oh my goodness, we are smashing it here. We're absolutely smashing it here in Yorkshire. It's non-stop. This is absolutely brutal. Absolutely non-stop. We were in Parklands Primary all day yesterday, a whole day of creativity. That head teacher there, Chris Dyson, ran 8 assemblies back to back. 8 assemblies, because we're all in bubbles. He did the whole stage up like some winter wonderland. It was wonderful, really lovely, connected with his kids. We live streamed a lot. We had a programme of stuff. We couldn't squeeze a word in. We couldn't get a Rizzler between his assemblies, I tell you. And now we've done this morning. We showed the kids how to build a cardboard Tracy Island yesterday, so I'm going to pull my little camera because a lot of people are saying, oh god, are you on Zoom and all that sort of stuff. Well, no, we're not on Zoom, all right, so get used to it. We don't use Zoom. Let me just show you what's going on here. My camera's gone on a bit of a blink, so I'm going to show you what's going on here, because basically that is, let me just cut through here, so let me do that there like that. So that is the cardboard Tracy Island that we built yesterday morning, and then this morning we learned how to make this rocket. I've run out of hands now. Let me zoom back. So we've made a cardboard rocket like that. We're launching on the cardboard stage tomorrow night, and then we've got all this kit here. So that's where Malumba, give us a wave. Come on, you're the production crew here. So this is Malumba, our production assistant. That's fantastic. Over there at the back, we have got a mirror ball. That's Malumba's bunk bed, but it's my mirror ball, all right? So don't get any ideas. It's my birthday yesterday, so we had a bit of a disco, the two of us. Sad old men that we are. And, do you know what I mean? And we've got all the kit here, Look at that, we've got a video there. You have a young lady, Vistalia, who I met a couple of months ago, actually. Vistalia, can you say something?
Hi.
Yeah, don't ever pause like that, right? When I say something, say it immediately, because my heart stops at that time, right?
Straight away. I'm speaking while you're speaking.
Do you know what I mean? It is working, yeah. It is.
I think there's a delay. There's a delay. I can hear it.
You have a bit of a delay. You've got to live with that, because we're making this up as we look at all the wires under there. No wonder there's a delay. Look, it's got to go all through those wires. So let me press this button here and press that, and you're actually up full screen properly now. Vistali, lovely to see you. Thanks so much for dropping in.
I can see myself. There I am.
Yeah, we'll get used to that. I tell you.
Can you hear me okay though?
We can. It's not bad. It's not brilliant actually, but it works. It's fine. There's probably nothing you can do about it. So don't worry. The levels are there, and everybody can hear me and my big voice. Yeah, don't worry. I think that's just in your ear really. So, and if I press, let me just press this. That doesn't work, does it? Hang on a second. Is it that one? Yeah, there we go. So there you are on a school playground in Leeds, believe it or not, on a playground, Parklands Primary. Yeah, that's all working. So remind everybody where I met you, because we had a lovely encounter, didn't we? It was really sweet a couple of months ago.
Yeah, it was a bit busy because we were in the midst of Kensington and Chelsea Art Week, which is here you are, the little guide,
Check
and
it
we've got
out.
all these different activities. And you came to one of our incredible shows, which is the Open Doors exhibition hosted by the Goldfinger Factory. And we had various artists and curators there to celebrate the filming of Open Doors during the lockdown. So we had a small budget to give to artists, sponsored by Kensington Chelsea Council, to make films, 360-degree films during the lockdown, to just basically give a little bit of support, but also give a bit of a bit of support to everybody else to see the insides of these studios that currently were producing fantastic work, and for the benefit of not being so lonely and locked in. So yeah, that's what you came to see. You came to see some of those artists speaking and presenting their work.
It was really lovely, actually. I really enjoyed that. You're a bit like me, actually. I think I'm so desperate to get a mic in my hands. Whenever I get one, I've got to tell you, we've got half an hour, so chill out. It's totally cool. It's lovely, because one thing really struck me about you is that you do quite a lot, don't you? You've got a lot of stuff going on. Whereabouts are you actually based? You're down on
Yes.
You're down on the. Yeah, I know. Do you know what I mean? I can feel the stress now because you suddenly realised how much stuff you've taken on. Tell us a little bit about. Tell us where you are based at the moment. Where are you? Because you're not in West London, are you?
I'm currently in my best friend's bedroom. We've got two little boys, and we're obviously trying to get them out into the fresh air and do lots of activities together. So that's where I am. I'm actually in East London at the moment.
Oh, you're in East
I would
London,
be
are you?
in
Okay.
Notting Hill, South Kensington, all over the borough. That's where I usually am.
I had some idea you lived down Margate way. Did you not down that way?
Yeah, I do actually. We moved out to kind of have a bit more space, I suppose. But I'm still 1 foot in Notting Hill and 1 foot out there, so I'm always around.
Fair dues. Yeah, fair. I must admit, given half a chance, I spent half my life in Cornwall. Actually, I like a bit of surfing, so I get down there a little bit on a bit of cheeky surfing action. So,
Nice.
what really connected me with you, to be honest, well, two things. I went on the Kensington Chelsea Art Week, which is very near where I live. I live in Noha. Do you know Noha? Do you know a place called Noha?
Actually.
No. Oh, you should. Oh,
Should
check
know
it.
it.
Well, you
shouldn't I?
blooming well should.
Sounds like I should know.
If you're North Kensington, you need to know. So Noha is that very exclusive district north of the Harrow Road. Yeah.
Oh yes, of course.
No,
I just never. Yeah, go on.
We've never heard it before, have you? Because I just invented it. That's why. Because we are making this up as we go
I think
along.
I've
Get
never
used to
heard
it.
Oh, I'm glad I said that, because otherwise we would have felt
Don't
like
worry.
a right plonker. Sort of
Don't
saying
worry.
I know of
Now,
it, I don't.
Malumba and I both know how posse, basically. So Malumba, who you just saw in the shot there, you've been connecting with. So basically, Malumba, I met him, 5 years ago, when I was doing some work with Cassar, and I'd just been photographing their shop, just on my phone, nothing flash. And I came back to Noha, and I walked past George's fish and chip shop, and there's a bloke standing outside there with a Cassar art bag. So I said, "Oh, you're not an artist by any chance?" He said, "Well, I might be. Why? Who wants to know?" And he had a portfolio as well. And I said, "Well, if you are, do you want some work this week? 'Cause I need an artist in residence for 3 days at a big festival we were doing in Berkshire." And he came along. We haven't stopped since. So Malumba's one of our artists in residence. He's just had a great show in Queen's Park. He did a thing, Ode to the Queen, which we'll talk about later over the weekend. But it's really the thing with me that really struck me was I went to that Kensington Chelsea Arts Week, and I met one of your colleagues on the team, and she said, "Oh, you need to speak to Vistalia," and boom, I went back the afternoon. Boom, you need to speak to him. They connected us. And then you joined in with us on a big a pitch for the Festival 2022 thing, which we didn't get through, and we don't really care because we're going to do grassroots anyway. But it was the fact that you followed through. You know, the passion, the energy. You're just collaborative, aren't you? Is collaborative? Is the C word a good word to describe you, Vistalia?
I think collaboration is the essence of life. It's so much fun working with other people. I also believe that you can't do everything on your own. You have to collaborate with others. Other people have skills, they have knowledge that you can't have. You can't know everything. So I do follow through, and I also really respect people who do the work that you're doing. So I think it's important, because you don't have much time. You're doing a lot of work. It's a very difficult profession. Everything is an obstacle. So I think if somebody comes your way and says, "Let's do something together," I'll do everything I can to help. I think I've been helped like that too, so I think I owe it to the world.
Well, you certainly did. We met 1 month, and I said, actually, we've just been told by the Festival 22 Martin Green's people that they wanted responses in a month. So we had a bit of a scramble together to put a posse together. Jamie Oliver was already booked by the sound of it, so we couldn't go in with him if we wanted to. And I love Jamie, I must admit, it's not a Jamie Oliver diss, but you stepped up because of the work you're doing. And you told me something very specific. You're really passionate about this art trail vibe, aren't you? Tell me what you think the essence of an art trail is and your credentials in that area, because I might pitch for another project with you if you're any good.
Oh, yes, please. Go on, do it.
Go on.
I'm always open to ideas. So, yeah, I think I've had this kind of a gene. I've got a chromosome of some sort that always got me into this public arts sector. So I've been doing it since I was a student, even before I was a student. I worked for, when I was at school, I was working at weekends at a jellied-legged chicken gallery, which was all about getting rid of this ivory tower illusion of the arts. And the arts have been considered to be only for the wealthy, which actually isn't true. And what you're doing with your work is actually bringing arts to the everybody, to kids, and getting people. So for me, creativity is the very strong power asset to the arts, because it makes you think outside the box. It makes you ask questions that you don't really ask normally, or it just makes you be aware. And it's also like a connector, it's like a gel for things. It allows you to penetrate different elements of our society and learn about other people. So I've always had that desire to bring artists on the pedestal, I suppose. And I've got so many friends who are artists, and sometimes whenever you're an academic, or you specialize in something, or a scientist, or you are the best craftsperson in the world, you generally are not necessarily out there pushing your work. You're focusing on being the best you can at what you're doing. So I've got a lot of people like that around me, and sometimes I feel like I want to put a trumpet out there and sort of say, did you see that these people are here and they're doing these incredible things, and they don't necessarily always have the time or the energy or the will to promote themselves. So when I was at university, I put a show together for my graduate friends who were doing fine arts, and we hired a grade listed building which used to belong to the monks, and it was one of the first pop-ups, and we're going about 25 years ago, it's a long time ago, before pop-ups became the norm. So we're basically utilizing spaces that not necessarily will be used for the arts in that way. And because you have a different audience that's coming to see that space, they will be surprised to see something else. And we had such a success. And I was almost 19 or 20. And so that was already beginning to stir something in me. I wanted to do it. And then I went to Sotheby's. I studied valuation and auctioneering of fine art and chattels. I've always been valuing art, looking at art and seeing where the value comes in, which is also a very interesting topic. How do you define the cost of something? How do you define the value of something? And that doesn't just go through commodities. It also goes towards the efforts that we put in. It also goes, how do you value kindness? These are very big questions. So anyway, doing the valuation auctioneering did look at the philosophy of valuing things and the history of art. And that naturally progressed to Sotheby's. And then I worked Sotheby's polishing silver in the Russian department. It was starting from the bottom and then working my way up. And it was a conveyor belt of various artifacts. And you become very knowledgeable very quickly. So history of art is really good. So you can look at the back of paintings to be able to see the age. You look at the paint. You look at the quality of the work. You sort of learn very fast. And then you write these catalog entries for each artwork, and you've got 350 lots in each auction. Then the auction happens, and then it all sells for various prices. And I used to always mark my catalogs to make sure that I had a record of how much it would sell for. So it's a very interesting element of the art world, but it's not everything. And I quickly understood that I prefer the other thing that I did. I much rather work with living artists who are producing work right now, who are asking difficult questions, and I can be a participant in that exciting conversation. So essentially, the art week was already brewing inside me. So I left the Sotheby's world and I went into the public art sector, tried to do lots of work with graffiti artists, street art. We brought street art to Morocco. We brought street art to LA. I mean, they had already their street art following and their own community, but we just brought in something else, and we worked with Marrakesh Biennale to bring in a different, fresh perspective on what you would call maybe very established arts. And then we brought in this new youthful idea of that arts that can be outside, and it doesn't necessarily have to fit into a museum. And that, of course, spiraled into a beautiful work on the ground of heritage site, which spans 6,600 square meters. And that painting that we created with an Italian artist called Giacomo Run was dealing with a migration crisis. And it was about two people communicating across borders, one being African border and the other one being the European border. And that painting on the ground was beautiful. It was created with the help of local students. And then after a month, of course, people's feet wore the paint off. So it was cleaned off naturally without us having to go down there and kind of clean it off. Obviously, we have to respect the heritage site. So it wasn't a permanent work. Quite like the idea of impermanence. So with the trail, you could see the links here. So the art trail is creating this buzz. You know, this is a temporary thing. Come to see Kensington and Chelsea during the art week. It's usually a month that we have the installation. Some installations exist for 6 months. It's all work that's already been produced by artists, and we create zones. So each artwork is placed in a zone. We have, like I showed you, this booklet, and each zone is color coded. So you've got green zone, you've got blue zone. Now this one here in particular, I'll give you an example. So yeah, you've got the yellow zone. This is, I think, Holland Park or High Street Kensington, and in there, right bang in the middle, will be a sculptural installation that people are encouraged to talk about, encouraged to visit, and then they are encouraged to discover what else is out there in that area. So in essence, the sculpture trail acts as a publicity stunt, as a drawer of interest, but it's also educational without trying. So we've got, we're now in year 4. We've just opened the submissions. They close on the 31st of December. Anyone can submit a submission, and then we have an art committee. Every year it changes, that review all the submissions and then democratically vote. It's important to say it's not me deciding what gets shown. It's actually a group of people who vote anonymously from marks 1 to 5 on various criteria on the works that have been submitted, and then those make the sculpture trail. And the reason we've done that was because we want to be able to invite artists we don't know, because we don't know everybody. So here's an opportunity if you're an established artist, whether you are just coming into becoming a sculptor or a potter or a performance artist or a sound engineer. This is an opportunity for you to submit your work and then be reviewed and potentially take part in next year's sculpture trail. That's it in a nutshell.
No,
Does that
wow,
make
that's
sense?
fantastic. I mean, I think the whole concept of, I could talk to you all day actually. I mean, we've got this. So you're an academic artist at one degree. So you're academically qualified as a valuer, and you understand the value and you understand that business. I mean, and I know that you're not into the elitism of this world either. You're very grounded, and you're very much about democratization of art. So we believe that, as you know, the Steamco vibe is a lovely phrase that we got from Seth Godin, that art is what we call it when what we do might connect us. One. The other objective we have is to help our kids find something in their life that they can be passionate about. Ken Robinson called it his element, so called it their element. So if we think of art as that broad, whatever connects us to somebody else, so art could be painting, photography, cooking, coding, robots, rockets, dancing, DJing, design, whatever. Is it legitimate and acceptable in the arts establishment world that you understand, even though you're not totally part of it, to redefine art so broadly and so accessibly? Do you think that's cool, basically? That's a bit of an analogy. Is that all right in it? Do you know what I mean? Or whatever, you know? What do you think about that?
Oh, I think the simpler things are, the better they work. So let's just simplify it. You know, everything is accessible. Everything is for everybody. No one decides what should be the thing. And this is one of the reasons why I love the street art movement, is because as soon as you put something in the public domain, it's not the people who put it there, it's the people who look at it that decide whether it stays or it goes. So with the murals generally, they either get tagged or they get destroyed by the weather, or they actually get buffed by the people who, buffed meaning painted over, by the people who live there.
Thanks for telling me that. I
and
didn't know
artists
that.
generally, they actually go into this profession, they go into this knowingly that they are just borrowing some public space, and they know that in the end it's not them who decides that it stays there. So it's this kind of humble approach which I appreciate very much.
It's interesting actually, because I think you know Lynette, who did the Black Lives Matter mural down on Freston Road, and she was telling me that got graffitied on, but interestingly enough, in a calligraphically perfect way, in a very intelligent way. Did you hear about this? Did you know that it had been tagged?
Well, I was speaking to her yesterday, and actually, it was our commission, actually. We worked together.
I know.
And Azara.
So you know it got tagged then, do you?
I know it got tagged, but I haven't seen it. There's been a lot of conversation about it, but I had a quick chat with Lynette about it. She didn't tell me that it was beautifully calligraphy.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think I think it was interesting for Lynette because Lynette is from that West Indian community. She's very much a part of it. She's an artist that communicates those values. The Windrush generation, the Freston Road artists, the Frestonians, all that stuff. And somebody commented on it in a way, you might think that if you, and I know Lynette wouldn't use this language, but I will just to make a point, that kind of political correctness, that right on, woke stuff, whatever, and I don't want to get binary on that. But for them to somebody to comment almost feels, blimey, what have I got to do to not get tagged in this context? But I think she realised that, as you've just said, once it's in the public domain, street art, you've just got to let go, man. You've got to go with it. Whatever anybody bothers to say, that's their prerogative. Is that right, do you think?
I mean, you just have to be realistic, and I'm a massive realist. I mean, I'm a dreamer too, but I think people will be people. And, there is a code of conduct, and what Lynette is referring to is that good art generally doesn't get tagged, and art generally doesn't get tagged. There's a code of conduct that respects other people's work. I think she might have told you that it wasn't the artwork that got tagged, it was actually the vinyl. And the vinyl is the content that we basically, it's the explanation what the work is about. It could have been the section
about
That's a good point.
That's a very good point,
about the sponsors that got tagged. It's just the bit that isn't the artwork.
Spot on.
So
it was very intelligent and considered. It was very respectful, so tagging isn't always just scribbling your street tag and your signature on a piece. It might be making a comment and contribution, and that was fine. It's interesting. Do you think the way that I wouldn't want to claim to be democratizing art, although we are a little bit. Just had my camera bump. Malumba's tucking into his pizza, just bumped my camera, but not to worry, we'll live with it. Let's be quite clear, this is pizza.
Well, I'm drinking my tea.
Well, there we go, we're all down.
Come back from a really cold walk.
Trying
to warm up a bit.
Let's be quite clear, we're actually eating pizza we bought last night from Domino's as we rushed out of Leeds to get to where we are today. And Malumba put his in the fridge and heated his up. Mine was actually under the driver's seat in the front of the camper van on the floor. But it was so cold, I'm fairly confident I'm not going to get food poisoning. So do you think that what we're trying to do here devalues art? I mean, you are an art valuer. Do we devalue the very concept of art if we make it accessible and easy for people to do you think?
Gosh, it depends who you're devaluing it for, but generally I don't think you can possibly devalue art. It's Jeffrey Matthews from the Arts Club, who sits on our advisory board for the Chelsea Art Weekend or Week, he said to me, more is more, and I kind of agree with that concept. I think more is more, and I think the more you do, the more people know about art. So in essence, you're promoting art as a whole, and it will always become more valuable the more people get engaged.
You caught me with a mouthful of pizza then, you bugger.
Oh, sorry, I'll continue talking. So yeah, I think there are two sides of it. So the idea of value. So that there is a value as a commodity, and that's actually based on demand. So if you've got loads of people that know, like for example, Banksy is continuing to grow in price, and it's very, very collectible, and the COVID lockdown's been really good for the art market. In fact, lots of people were buying a lot of art, perhaps because they were sitting on furlough money and they were not allowed to work. And I have no idea, I'm speculating here, but the art market didn't do too badly during COVID. There was a lot of sales. Perhaps, normal investments didn't work out, so investors were putting money into the collectible artworks. And Banksy sold maybe 10 times more for his price that he was selling before. So it's a huge jump in his price. But
hang on, let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there. Are you saying that the value of Banksy's art went up tenfold during lockdown?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, carry on,
in some cases, yes. I mean, somebody who's fine art pieces, which are unique paintings, probably maybe doubled, but maybe even not even doubled, maybe 50%. But there's some prints that were, I can't even explain what happened there. They were selling for a ridiculous amount of money. So, it was a very big jump. Definitely 3 times more. Definitely more than
I wonder if part of that is because people had the time to think about it and appreciate it and think, yes, I want it and I've got the money. I don't give a damn, because there's a lot of money kicking around in the world at the moment in some places, isn't there?
So yeah, it's about sort of more people knowing that Banksy is around. So because of this globalization of art, and you can now buy things online, and he's created a very clean way of certifying his artwork. So it's very difficult to buy a fake Banksy, and it's almost guaranteed that it will hold value. And as the American market grows, as the new Chinese market grows, more people know about this. Is more and more concept. More people know about him, the more people want to buy him. So the demand grows, and therefore there's the same amount of artwork. They're not growing in value very quickly. I mean, they're not growing in numbers very quickly. So one work has now got 15 buyers instead of like one. I'm just giving an example. So you've got a bigger audience, and therefore the value is growing. Do you see what I mean? So I think if you're working in the arts and you're promoting arts and you're making it accessible to kids, you're growing the audience, and the audience therefore appreciates art, and art in general become more valuable, I think.
No, that's an interesting point. So I just wanted to I want to pull something up on the screen actually. Actually, I've got it here. Let's go back here. So you are currently on a green bit of grass there. Let me get rid of me and get rid of you.
Oh,
that is the SEACROFT. That's the SEACROFT estate in Leeds. I suspect it's the first time you've been here.
Oh, I've been to Leeds a few times actually.
Well, you've probably been to Leeds. That's great, and the Tetley, and there's some great stuff. But you probably haven't been to the SEACROFT estate. So this is one of the most socially deprived communities in the UK. Mm-hmm. And not untypical of social housing estates like this. And I don't want to get too sort of academic and analytical about this, but at the top of this bank here, through those gates there, is the school that we were at yesterday. So that's Parklands Primary, and we ran an amazing day there yesterday with the head teacher, Chris Dyson. He did 8 assemblies back to back. He had the Rock Kids stage show. We live streamed it. And what's very cool is this house here. This is where a chap called Glenn lives. That's Grandad Glenn, who I just happened to bump into and have a chat with the other day. Let's see if I can get that film up actually of Grandad Glenn. I'm going to cut to you there. So we've got you on while I fumble around here, because I want to show you a little film that I made. So this is just rubbish on iPhone. So don't get beating me up for my film production techniques. So I just want you to see this little film of Glenn here. Because this for me is what this is all about. It's all about sort of connecting as many people as we possibly can to... oh, it started already, hang on. Here we are at Parklands Primary on the SEACROFT estate, the Aim High 20 Festival, absolutely fantastic. And we've got an unofficial gatekeeper here. This is Grandad Glenn. You're right there, Glenn. Don't get too close, mate. No, word is, you know, the ghost story. Tell everybody at home all about the ghost story of SEACROFT.
Oh, that's Bruce Wilson. Come here, Harvey. He's seen Darcy Bruce Wilson, the ghost himself of SEACROFT there.
Tell us the story, go on.
Oh, old wash house, what would it back up field up there. He used to own that place because he used to own it. And now the people around here have seen him. Even you two, you've seen him, haven't you, as well? The big old guy. He was massive. Owns these backfields. No kids will go on them backfields in the time. No way. Even horses are scared to go on there.
We don't need burglar alarms.
No, not that big. You've seen him, haven't you? Big old fella, isn't he?
So you're up for this Aim High Festival we're talking about? You're up for a bit of that, are you?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I think we'll do elbows on that then, Glenn. That's Grandad Glenn. I think we'll dedicate Sunday to Grandad Glenn. Looks like he runs things round here. Glenn's got some tools in the back of his truck, and he's going to knock some sidings and hoardings up for us. So Aim High 20 Festival here at SEACROFT in Leeds, East Leeds. It's going to be amazing. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Inspiring talks, uplifting performances, creative workshops, community engagement, and an art show. Aim High 20. See you there. So basically, Grandad Glenn, it turns out, basically Grandad Glenn is a maker. He's got a little workshop in the back there, and he sits there making stuff. And yesterday, Travis Perkins, the timber company in the woodyard, they gave us about 300 or 400 quid's worth of timber. Glenn is now building some hoardings, and a local graffiti artist is going to do some art there tomorrow. One of the families in that community who's an NHS worker, so he's on virtually minimum wage. His partner Shana is going to facilitate it. We're going to have a mini eclectic art trail on that bit of grass out the front of Glenn's house. Do you know what I mean? And I think if we can, and that's what I know that's what you and I really wanted to do if we'd been successful, with that pitch for the festival 2022, isn't it? We really hoped that we might be able to run something like this nationally. What are your thoughts and the reason you're here today, Vistali, is that you have that high art awareness and background in education, but at the same time you're incredibly grounded in this sort of community art. What are your thoughts about what you're seeing here?
I personally think that you have to give an opportunity for everybody to paint and create beautiful work. So you're right, absolutely. So I think what you're doing is brilliant. You're giving somebody another opportunity. I'm sure he's painting that local artist already working really well. He's already doing some great work. But you know, sometimes that you want to be able to be seen to be doing all of this work. So you're just by presenting this opportunity, you're giving more time and more encouragement for this kind of work to go up. And I love the hoardings projects. We've been doing quite a lot of building hoarding projects, and what we've done with locally in Kensington and Chelsea, we've been working with RCA students, because I think we all know the students really got a bad they've been dealt a really bad hand this year. So professional development, leaving university is incredibly difficult for people to get work. I mean, you and I work in the art world. It's very difficult to work in this environment. So I compared it to being in the pirate ship trying to find somewhere to land in the massive ocean of stuff and that constant move. And you don't really know. And I love that part of my job, but you know, it is difficult. So we've done some of these projects. We've worked with local developers and said, listen, your hoardings look horrible. Why don't we work with local artists? We find them a budget, and then they work on the brief. So we've done 4 of those. We're doing a fifth one in Lansdowne Way next year, early next year in January. And that's a professional development. We're actually creating a brief. The artists pitch for the brief. They've only just started working at the university, so they actually get that sense of, how do I pitch? How do I present myself? How do I make a design? How do I deliver it? And they have to work through all of that. And I think the more opportunity we give to people to do this, the more we're going to have these incredible artists in the long run. You know, everybody started somewhere. All of these famous highbrow artists, including Banksy, had to start somewhere. And this is how we kind of start. We start with this little bit of encouragement. It happened to me. People encouraged me, and I'm forever grateful. Even today I was listening to the Radio 4 Saturday program, and I don't know if you know that, but
yeah.
That program where they ask people to call in to say thank you to someone that helped them along the way, but they have no idea who those people are. It always brings me to tears. You know, somebody has given me a helping hand in little things, you know, or big things, or gave me a sense of encouragement, or just said, do you know what, here's the permission to live out your dream. And giving that permission to someone to live out their dream, however small that little nudge is probably the biggest thing and the biggest thank you could probably give to somebody. So I really believe in what you're doing. I think it's a brilliant thing, and I would always support it. And if I can do more of it myself, I would.
And please don't think that was a whole setup to sort of solicit compliments, because I don't give a damn, to be honest. I mean, I'm grateful. Don't get me wrong. I think, yeah, just fine now. I know we've got to move on now. I've got Malumba sticking me in the ribs, but
My internet.
I can hear you. Oops, what's happened? Is your internet gone? Oh, freeze. Have we lost her? It will come back, I'm sure. Is it me? Is it you? It's not me, it's you. It might be me, it might be you. Oh, we've lost her. That's a shame. That's a shame. Let's see if we can get her back. Let's go on here. So we're on Skype here, because Skype kind of works for us, but not to worry. You know, well, maybe it doesn't. Maybe Skype doesn't work for us. Let's have a look. There we go.
Was it something to do with the pizza?
Well, I'm going to blame you. I'm going to blame you, not me. Oh, don't turn that. Don't press that switch. Oh my God, that's the ejection. I'm joking. So it's all good for starters. So really quick,
Just looking for the light switch. It's very cold, very dark in my room. Yes.
It's all good. There we go. Oh, now we can see you. So, the only thing I just want to wrap up with, really, I mean, I started this project 10 years ago. Chris Sullivan, funny enough, do you know Chris Sullivan from Portobello Radio and the WAG and all that stuff?
I know, not Chris Sullivan, but I know Piers.
Oh, Piers and Greg, those guys, rock stars.
He's on our advisory board, and he's absolutely brilliant.
I love those guys. So basically, Chris Sullivan used to run the WAG Club, and he's now got a film production company called WAG Films Inc. And tomorrow night he's going to be speaking to. We're hoping to get Steve Lazarides on. Actually, you know Steve, you know Laz.
Oh, brilliant!
So he,
Well, he'll
although
tell you
he's
about the Banksy prizes.
well, yeah,
He
do
was
you know what I mean?
the original dealer. Of
Well, he was.
Banksy.
I think he was. I think he used to help Banksy, didn't he? Take the photos. He probably had a better high-vis jacket than me. But so we're hoping he may be able to join us. But the point is that Chris Sullivan has just made a film about Laz, and we're premiering it tomorrow night at the Yorkshire Sculpture Park. Have you heard of the Yorkshire Sculpture Park? Out of interest.
Of course.
Well, I'm glad you
Yes,
said that,
I was
'cause-
going to ask you about it today.
I'm glad you said that because Chris Sullivan hadn't, and we had a bit of a row about it. But that's whatever. We all love each other. It's all good. So bottom line, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, Chris Sullivan is premiering his film about Steve Lazaridis, which is wicked. I've seen that. So that's 7. Then he's got a chat with Joe Corres, who is Vivienne Westwood's son, who's a bit of an artist as well. And he's also going to show a film that he's made about us and the work we're doing at Steamcoast. We've got a whole hour around that, about the importance of art and creativity, because Chris is really passionate about that. So that's going to be tomorrow night. And I can't believe we've been given Yorkshire Sculpture Park for the day. So we are live streaming from Yorkshire Sculpture Park. Can you believe that?
Oh, can you choose a really cool artwork from going? Because Yorkshire, weirdly, I'm actually going there in January, February. We're taking some of the kids for a special tour of Yorkshire Sculpture Park.
Wow.
I don't know if you're aware, but we did a sculpture with Alice Irwin, whose sculpture installation is in Preston Road. It's still there. It's called People's Play. It's actually based on slavery of kids, and abolishing all of that, and just using child labor in any production. It's really bad. And so she was working on a big installation which used to be installed in the Peace Hall in Halifax, which is in Yorkshire, and those sculptures were created in the foundry based at the Yorkshire Sculpture Park. So we're taking a group of kids from a certain community to meet the artist, to go to Yorkshire Sculpture Park, to actually try and see how the artworks are made in the foundry with the metal, and there's all these exciting techniques, and they're actually going to have some workshops as well. So it should be quite interesting.
Wicked.
I love the Yorkshire Sculpture
It's lovely.
Park. It's an amazing thing, and they constantly change their installations. So I'm really eager to see what you're going to choose for your backdrop.
Well, the bit of bad news is we're not allowed to choose something as a backdrop because we only we only sorted this out. We only sorted it out on Thursday, and the copyright is so strict. You're not allowed to commercially use images, which I understand. So we'll blur.
Unless you get permission from the artist, is it too late for you to do that?
Do you know? Well, the one I love, you know, the Damien Hirst, the little girl, the collection box one, where the girl's got the money box. Do you know that one?
Ah.
Is that Damien Hirst? I think
No,
it is, isn't
I
it?
don't know that one.
There's, I'm not
sure.
You're probably not old enough to remember, but there used to be a thing where they used to collect money for disabled children. It was a little girl, and she's got her legs in calipers, and she's holding a collection box. And I could get quite emotional now, actually, because basically she's in calipers. Now, we are on the site, you know Sir Ken Robinson? Do you know Sir Ken Robinson?
Yes.
Yeah. He went to college in a place called Bretton Hall. I don't know if you knew that, which was one of the leading colleges for creative education in the UK for art and design, drama. We are on those grounds. That is in the grounds of Yorkshire Sculpture Park. And Sir Ken Robinson's tragically passed away this summer, and he inspired me to start Steamco. I was so grateful. He actually nominated me for a TED Fellowship, which is amazing. And just a month ago, we actually launched 2 things. We've launching a podcast, #TalkWalkers. It's all very well walking. You and I, we want to be walking it, not just talking it. So #TalkWalkers20. We've got a podcast of 15 people who knew Sir Ken and worked with him. And then we've also launched a Creative Carers Patreon, where for £1 a month, people can help us raise £1 million by 2022, because we want to put 22 people like me and you on the road for 2022, travelling around, running community events and running projects like this. So that's what we're all about. So to be here doing this is just amazing. And there's a Damien Hirst sculpture here of a little girl with a collection box, and it says, "Please help the poor." And there's a crowbar at the back because somebody's stolen the money out of that sculpture. They've stolen the money from that little girl's collection box. You know, it can make you cry because I don't know if you know.
But that is, unfortunately, that is the cruelty of the life. Every day we see that level of cruelty, and it's just unfair. It makes my...
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes me very sad.
So basically...
Sorry,
we're done,
yeah,
we're done.
I have to head...
The poignancy, let me just tell you, the poignancy... The poignancy of that particular sculpture for me, which Banksy wouldn't, Damien Hirst wouldn't realise if he did it, is that Ken Robinson wore calipers for his whole life. And there's a, I don't know, something there. Vistalia, thank you so much. It's lovely to connect with you like this.
I hope you're okay, and I feel really sad about your loss. I thank you for sharing that with me, and I appreciate it. It's very touching.
Being here with you today has been really very, very special. You're on the SEACROFT estate. There are people on that estate now building an art show and an art trail inspired by you, inspired by us, but facilitated by builders merchants who gave them 300 quid's worth of free wood. You know, that's what it comes down to, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Thank you, sweetheart. I'll see you soon. Yeah, we'll be in touch.
And carry on the legacy.
No, nothing without you.
Really
Art
thank
connects.
you for inviting me. It was a real pleasure.
Lovely. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Have a
Wow. Well, how good was that? What a lovely chat. I've never really even spoken to her before. I've got a thumbs up. Let's have a bit of a fist bump for that, Malumba. We've both had our virus checks. We're both totally clean of COVID. I'm bursting to go to the loo, actually. I don't know what the options are. Who's on now? Aaliyah. Brilliant. Okay, so this is going to be really cool. So I'm going to press that button there. I'm going to press that button there and get rid of me. I'm going to play a little video just to remind everyone what this is all about. We are the biggest rip-offs. A friend of ours, Mark Earls, is one of the most strategic creatives in the advertising industry. Advertising is about commercial art. And this is an advert that Amazon made with an agency called Lucky Generals, who also made the Co-op film that we ripped off. And we've ripped this off. We don't pretend to be Banksy or Stormzy or anybody super cool creative like that, or Vistalia. We just do what we can with Adobe Photoshop and Premiere and editing on phones. But this film absolutely smashed it for me. I hope you enjoy it. We'll be back in 2 minutes with an amazing young woman called Aaliyah. Hold tight.
Good evening. All schools across the country will close until further notice as coronavirus reached 100.
Where is Chris Dyson? Can we have Chris Dyson on this stage, please?
As I said, we're in the toughest area in Leeds, and yet our school children, the children that actually sit on the interview panel for the Northern Ballet, because I want to give them an opportunity that they've never sort of had before. And it shows if you believe in the people, you believe in these teachers, you believe in these kids, absolutely anything is possible.
So once again, I've been caught with a mouth full of pizza. Chris Dyson's up there. He's probably sat on his sofa laughing and loving it. Tara White like that. If you've got any comments, check your comments in. We are cooking on gas here. I'm blown away by that last session. Actually, I thought it was lovely for Starley. I've only met her very brief. I met her for 5 minutes on the art trail thing. Well, let's plug my microphone in properly. I met her for 5 minutes on the art trail. And a week later she agreed to bid on the Festival UK 2022, and we could have talked an hour about that. £120 million that the government have allocated for a national festival of creativity and We didn't get shortlisted the first time round, but we're looking to raise £1 million to just do our own thing, grassroots. That's fine. There's a bit of bad vibes around that, whatever. We're not down with the bad vibes. We're keeping it positive. Next up is Aaliyah, who's just incredible. Now I've got to have to get my glasses out. This is my old man's glasses because I can't read these screens anymore without my glasses. So, oh gosh, it's one of those accounts, one of those IDs, is it? So let's have a look. Okay, let's see if we can find her on Skype. We use Skype. We don't meddle around with Zoom on this. There she is. This is looking good. This is looking good. She can chill out. I'm just going to cut to one more film. We're going to come back. We're going to come back with Vistalia York. No. So Amelia Vistalia, yeah. Aaliyah York, who blew me away when she did a talk the other week with an incredible man who, yeah, this is just, we're just incredible, aren't we?
Ministers have just announced Christmas will be different this year for thousands of us. New measures are...
Can I come? Come on! I am! I'm coming! Ready? Yeah.
You see, I grew up a bloody screw up. I've always been a little rough around the edges. I run the streets all day where we would play, blowing, chase and hopping over fences. Youths offended, bad decisions, good intentions, poor attendance, skip detention. Living life's the only way you ever learn your lesson. Authorities couldn't handle him. In hindsight, they didn't know what was happening when there was never any doubt. Was never chasing clout, I wasn't even chasing any status. And you know you all have to rate us, cause I'll always be a rock star, even if I never get famous. They said you have to get a job and we'll be dead end. They didn't know that I would grow to be a legend. I'm a rock star, ooh, I'm a rock star. They said you have to get a job and we'll be dead end. They didn't know that I would grow to be a legend. I'm a rock star, ooh, I'm a rock star. I'm a rock star, ooh, I'm a rock star.
Well, here we are at Parklands Primary in Leeds on the Seacroft estate. A whole load of cardboard boxes have been thrown in the backyard there on the Key Stage 1 playground, and I know, that I can just press this up, you see, loving it. So everybody's going to think Mr. Dyson's loving it. He's really annoyed, right, because he does not like litter kicking around his school. And it looks as if somebody's been up the side by Grandad GLEN'S, chucked the cardboard over that back fence. So Mr. Dyson says, very impressive. Well, he might have said that to something else. I don't know what he said it to, but I'm going to misquote him. And somebody else thinks here it's amazing, and somebody else thinks it's an impressive setup. So we're loving that. If you want to pop a message in, by all means pop a message in. It looks like Aaliyah's coming in. That's good. Aaliyah, you need to turn your camera on, I think. You haven't got your camera on, but that will happen. No panic. Poor connection. Switched. Oh, here we go. Looking good. It's looking good. I can see you. Chill out. Chill out. We'll come to you in just a second. So you just get yourself together. So I'm just playing for time because, gosh, change making the world a better place, changing things, getting stuff done is something we all need to be cracking on with. And there's an organisation called Ashoka, which is a global philanthropic body that do incredible work with. They work with the Elders, which is one of Nelson Mandela's legacy projects. They work with philanthropists across the world on a changemaker project. They've got schools in the UK, which are called changemaker schools, which are schools trying to do things a bit more differently, grounded on one thing. And that's schools that are built on empathy. Now, if you were to speak to Chris Dyson up there at Parklands, he'd say my school's built on love. And nobody's going to argue with that because that's a great foundation on which to build a school. And Chris would also say empathy, yeah, because those kids have an empathy with other people and their challenges, their issues. They're not into this division, they're not into the divisiveness. They know that we're all #better together. So empathy is a very, very important value. Sir Peter Bazalgette, who was then chair of the Arts Council and now chair of ITV wrote a fantastic book called The Empathy Instinct. It's my kind of book. It's quite small, so I could read it pretty quickly. And talked about just walking in other people's shoes and having an awareness of other people and their challenges and their issues. So that's what Ashoka schools are. So we're hoping to have a chat this weekend with an amazing head teacher, Ray Snape, who basically runs a school based on these values: empathy, love, connection, as Chris Dyson, as Chris Tolson, as all the schools we work with do. So the other day, Ashoka had a conference, which is their annual Changemakers conference. And I saw a little clip on that. Actually, I'm going to pull it up now. I'm going to sort of just sit down here. This is all very amateurish, but that's how we're rolling. And I'm going to see if I can find... Oh, I don't know if I've got it on here. Let me have a look, see if I can find it before I introduce our next guest. Did I save it on this computer or not? I'm going to put it up while she's chatting. It's fine. So I'm going to press this button here and pull up a really amazing young woman. Alaya, how are you? Can you hear me?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're like everybody else. You're all winding me up, because when I say, can you hear me, you all leave it for like 30 seconds until you say yes. And that's like an eternity for me. Do you know what I mean? How are you today, young lady?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
You don't want to know, actually. It was my birthday yesterday, so we had a couple of cans of shandy. Woke up with a bit of a hangover, and woke up with a little bit of a hangover. So I'm a bit fragile, and we had to actually reset the whole system up today as well. So we had to reprogram everything. It's absolutely mad.
Oh.
Have you managed to catch any of the nonsense we're up to? Because obviously you're from a sort of different generation to me. How's it looking from where you're sitting?
It's looking good. Yeah, I've got you up on my TV on the side, so I was watching.
You millennials, you're multi-screening it, aren't you? What are you like? So tell me a little bit about you. I know you had a big birthday last week, because if you hadn't, I'd have had to sign lots of bits of paper to get you here. But you're actually kind of a grown-up now, aren't you? Which sort of blows it a bit for me.
Yeah, no consent forms or on my own now. I'm well, thank you. So I don't even know where to start.
Just tell us a little bit about your background and where you live and what you're thinking.
So okay. So I'm Aaliyah. I'm based in East London, and I run a campaign called People Power, which I founded when I was 16. Like after completing my GCSEs, I started People Power, and essentially it's just a youth that aims to try and educate as many young people.
Aaliyah, your
now want to sort of be change makers and lead education.
Aaliyah, your audio is dropping out a little bit. Can you get a bit closer to your Wi-Fi, or have you got a wired connection as an option?
Yeah.
Or maybe pedal a bit faster.
Give me one second.
Just get your Wi-Fi, because you've got a very important message here. I really want to get this right if we can.
All right. Give me literally 30 seconds. I'll end it and come back on again.
Just chill out. It's totally fine. It's all good. It's all good.
Perfect.
Do you think that's going to be a bit better? It's got worse. Oh, we've lost you completely. Not to worry. We've lost her altogether. Maybe she's just gone to another part of the house. But not to worry. We're making it up as we go along. As Seth Godin said, it might not work, but here's the thing. The guy who invented the ship also invented the shipwreck, and either you're in or you're out. Either you want to play this game, and I'll show you what this game looks like. This is what this game looks like. This game looks like a load of absolute randomness and crazy technology. This is what this game looks like. Kit and bits of wire and mixers and cardboard models of Tracy Islands, bits of green screen, half-eaten pizza, chocolate biscuits, Malumba staggering back. That's what this looks like. So we don't care if things don't work. We're going to stick with it. We'll give it another go. Let's give it another call back. We don't really care too much. Look at this. This is actually a mixer that's crashed. That's what happens when your mixers crash, because it's not supposed to be doing that. This is really quite worrying. I should have reset this earlier. So my mixer's not happy. We've got 10 people watching. I don't know if anybody's got any comments. A school based on love. Chris Dyson's locked in. He's got Sky Sports on one channel, I'm sure. Come on, Leah. So I might... okay, if you are watching live, I'm going to have to do something. I need to reset my mixer because all the buttons have gone crazy. How you doing, Aaliyah?
I'm well, thank you. Is this better now?
It's much better, but I've got a bit of a problem. My mixer's crashed. So I'm going to reboot my Vision mixer, but the good thing is the software I'm using will stay up. So can you all just bear with me for like 30 seconds? I've got to reboot it because all the lights are gone. I can't do anything if my lights aren't right. You stay where you are. Please stand by, everybody at home. We're going to shut down. It will go black for about 10 to 30 seconds, maybe a minute, but we'll be back. So please bear with us. 3, 2, 1. Are we back? Well, oh, we're back. Aaliyah, where are you? Aaliyah's gone now. Right, I'm going to hang up on her and get her back. We'll do this properly. Oh, I just hung up on her. Right, we're back. Look at that, 3 of me. I'm sorry about that. We're all back. We're all back.
No worries.
And you've got a good signal. Let me turn you up a bit. Give me a sound check.
Hello.
A bit longer than that.
How are you doing?
That's good. So Aaliyah. Oh man, that is a good look. Check this out. How good is that signal? Now, why didn't you get the expensive Wi-Fi out to start with? You're starting to take this seriously now, aren't you?
Do you know what it is? It's where I was originally. It's just notoriously bad, and I thought, let me push my luck and see whether it works today. But yeah. No,
one of life lessons with the live business is never push your luck, because that's the thing called Sod's Law, and it kicks in. So I'm going to ask you one thing. Do me one favour and put yourself on the left-hand side of your screen. So move it across a little bit. At the moment, you're on the right-hand side, I think, aren't you? So just turn your phone round, or your laptop, or whatever it is. So,
okay.
So you're on the other side. So just no. Well, hang on. No.
Like that?
Yeah, that's good. So you're that side. That's perfect. Because what happens now, see, I can put myself up here, and I can sit and have a chat with you. See, I'm on the other side.
Perfect.
We can pretend we're in the same room.
Yeah, everything's literally dropping.
That's perfect.
I'm just going to hold it like that. Yeah.
Are you cool with that?
All good?
We're very good. So you were telling us about your project, weren't you? Tell us about that. Tell us about this project you started.
So when I was 16, after I finished my GCSEs, I started a campaign called People Power. And People Power essentially is a youth-led movement that tries to educate and engage young people like myself, so essentially my peers, on how to lead educational change. Our first ever sort of interest was looking at funding cuts, thinking about how we addressed, Josh, I'm on a call, thinking about how we address sort of young people being at the forefront of change, because they never really are. They're always sort of like left to the side a little bit, or there is opportunities to lead educational change. It's quite tokenistic and it doesn't happen in genuine ways. So that's what my priority was, really.
Okay, that's interesting. So what were you doing sort of educationally wise? What subjects did you choose for? I guess you just an A level, have you?
So I did my GCSEs. So for GCSEs, I was very creative. So I did drama, PE, and geography. And then obviously the compulsory subjects, RE, maths, English, science. And then for A levels now, I'm doing politics, sociology, and geography still.
Okay. And what are your thoughts moving forward academically? I'm deliberately playing for time because I'm trying to find a video here, but
No worries, no worries. I have applied for uni, so I've applied for university to study politics, and I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, that's literally just sort of like, I think listening to what was said before, it's the idea of like how important like those creative subjects are, because I think if I didn't do them at GCSE, I definitely wouldn't sort of be the person I am today. Like I always say it today, like doing GCSE drama and subjects like that have definitely shaped who I am.
So do you think, what were your feelings about creativity in education and the pressure it was under?
Oh, it's insane, because I think they were trying to push a sort of a particular narrative whereby students have to all learn the same thing and they're expected to all be amazing scientists or English students or mathematicians. And realistically speaking, that's not everybody's strength. And so when I was a part of a program called the Arts Emergency that actually was set up due to the fact of the funding cuts in schools and sort of the lack of funding given to creative areas and creative subjects.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, in that experience, it was so important because they were trying to sort of push back against that and say, yeah, creative subjects are important and we need to make sure that we're supporting young people to sort of tap into that. Because yeah, due to the funding cuts, it's definitely not seen as a priority, is it?
Absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of pressure on that, and I've done what I can to kind of push back and to comment on that. So really, I mean, what fascinates me about you, Aaliyah, actually, is the way that you've seized this. You've set out to do what lots of people have said needs doing, what lots of people have talked about doing, but few people have actually, as far as I'm concerned, done very much about it. And so you to me are very much a doer. And I'd just like to cut, if I may, to a little film that I threw together. The quality's a bit rough and around the edges, but let's not let that bother us too much.
I guess the key word in that is reimagining almost.
Technology and the environment and everything else will change.
Oh, hang on, that's not working, is it?
And
hang
she
on
has
a second.
to be equipped
let me shush.
to be able to change.
Just stop a second, please, will you, Your Lordship? It's a bit... Playing things sometimes on one machine can be a bit tricky, so bear with me a second on this. I want to get this right.
No worries.
So, why don't you actually just set this up for us, Aaliyah, and tell everybody who it is that we're just about to hear from here on this little clip. Are you there? Oh, we've lost you again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Yeah, tell us who this person is we're just about to hear from.
So you're about to hear an interview that I did with Lord Jim Knight, who everyone calls an educational hero because of his commitment in education. He served as the Minister for Children, I believe, and had a long-serving role in thinking about how education can be at the forefront and how you can transform education. So he's done an amazing work on education reform, education transformation. And yeah, I was really honoured to do an interview with him and kind of tap into that a little bit more about the work that he's been doing.
Okay, let's play that little film, just 60 seconds or so. Oh, I've got the gremlins today, here we go.
I guess the key word in that is reimagining almost.
Technology and the environment and everything else will change constantly. And she has to be equipped to be able to change constantly with it and feel sufficiently empowered to take control of her career. And that's where we've got to get our education system, because there's not that at the moment. It's a long way away from that right now.
If you went back to your position, you would do things differently. And so my question to you is, why do we need to reimagine education?
Let me start by telling you about a project I'm working on at the moment, which is with something called Founders Forum, which is a bunch of people who founded big tech companies. And they're working with another organization called 01, to create a network of coding schools here in the UK. And what's interesting about these particular coding schools is it's a two-year course that's free for students, where no prior attainment is required, where you apply by doing a essentially a game on a browser on your phone for about an hour, hour and a half. And through that, they will work out who the top 3% are cognitively. They won't look at any certificates. They won't look at A levels, GCSEs, T levels, BTECs. None of that matters. What matters is, whether or not you've got the raw cognitive ability. And then you learn in a teacherless environment. You learn on a peer-to-peer basis, collaboratively, to be a software engineer.
Wow.
And lands everyone in a job after 2 years, from no coding to a 45 grand on average starting salary job, that if they want to carry on in that world, they've learnt to they've not only learnt coding, they've learnt how to learn to code with other people. So they've learnt all of those learning skills. They've got huge flexibility as learners so that they can keep up to date.
So, Leah, what did you... Oh, we've lost you again. Hello, Leah. You're saving your internet, are you? I can see you.
Oh, okay, great.
So what I think Lord Jim Knight there discussed really was a radical approach to education, regardless of the subject, which in that case was teaching young people coding. So they're choosing young people, not based on how good they are at doing what they're going to be doing, but based on other attributes of core skills, collaboration skills, their communication skills, their determination, all the sort of energy that around them. And then teaching them, and then they don't even teach them, they kind of learn together with their peers, so peer-based learning. And this seems like what are your thoughts around that? How did that compare with what you did at school and how you were taught?
Oh wow, it's complete contrast. It's something that I think as a young person, I've been in education for over a decade now. So from as young as like nursery all the way up until year 13 now. So it's been a really long time. But that experience and that sort of reality that Jim discussed is far from what I experienced. And to some degree, it's quite sad because that is the way that we should be learning. And I think our conversation essentially was trying to emphasize and trying to draw upon what is the purpose of education. We say the purpose of education is that we, are equipped and prepared for the big wider world, and that, we can face challenges. And now in the 21st century, we face so many injustices and we want to essentially tackle that. But the education system that we're experiencing now doesn't actually prepare us for that. Instead, it prepares you to complete and pass an exam that they want you to learn based on the curriculum that they have created. And I don't really agree with it. And so, I think it definitely does contrast to, the experience that I've had. However, I've got hope with, the rise of like democratic schools. That's something that I definitely was really, really unfamiliar with. This idea that there's schools out there that don't necessarily have a typical classroom setup or typical classroom environment. There's no sort of hierarchy in their learning environment. So teachers are actually seen as equal to the students, which to someone like me, based on going to like an average state school, seems crazy. So I think it's really important when we were speaking with Jim to actually open our minds up to, especially young people like myself, to open our minds up to that possibility, because I think it's not that we don't see it as good, it's just we see it as so distant and so far away from our current experience of education. And so if we're able to,
I guess the key word in that is reimagining
that, then that's moving forward a lot closer, I would say.
Now that's really interesting. It strikes me you've almost become a bit of an education expert, have you, would you say? I mean, you since you left school, or as you're leaving school, you've sort of discovered all these new ways of educating, would you say? Is that true?
Yeah, I would say so. I think after leaving secondary, I definitely opened up my mind. It all started really, I didn't actually mention, when I attended an NEU event. And so everybody would know, except for Malia at the time, that the NEU is a union for teachers and for educational leaders. And so I signed up to the event after realising that I think there was a couple of people that I, was interested in. So I think Sadiq Khan and Jeremy Corbyn were attending. So I was like, okay, I want to turn up. It's my summer holidays, year 11, that long summer holidays. What else do I have to do? And after attending, I actually registered because obviously it is a union forum. I said that I was a teacher or a counsellor just so I could get into the event. And after being in that space, a sort of like kind of what were almost open, if you like, because as a young person in school, all the sort of things that were discussed, all the issues that were raised were never brought to my attention. It was almost rubbed under the carpet or sort of hidden away from me as a student in school. And I think that's what I really wanted to change. I thought, well, young people have ideas too. We've got solutions as well. Why can't we be a part of it? And so I think that was what the sort of driving force was behind Pupil Power. It was essentially, why don't we bridge the gap between, you know, the adults and the educational leaders and the young people? Because there is a massive gap and we're almost sheltered away from the issues. And most times we know what's going on because we experience it. If we think about funding cuts, we're the ones experiencing the funding cuts with, you know, the lack of resources, the cut of arts and things like that. But we just don't know why it's happening. And so Pupil Power is essentially readdressing that, saying, okay, we understand that there's flaws in the system. We live it, we experience it. Why can't we be a part of changing it and bring our ideas to the forefront? And so, yeah, I think from there, from leaving secondary, I became more in tune with my inner change maker and my sort of curiosity to finding out the reasons why things were happening and why things were the way they were. And that's what I guess you could say, you know, drew me closer to education. One of the courses I've actually applied for uni is actually called Education Policy and International Development. So if that doesn't say I have an interest for it, I don't know what else does, to be honest.
So is this whole thing a bit of a front to help you get into uni then, is it? You just come up with this?
No, not at all. Not at all. But it definitely does show, I would say, how I can literally talk about it all day, every day, because I'm super, super interested. It's so important. I think what's even more, I guess, fueling for me is that, like, as I'm talking about the things I do, is that I'm engaging with people my own age and my own friends. And so I speak to my best friends about what's going on, and I think it's really important that they are aware and they don't think, oh, it's none of my business, or, you know, that's what teachers talk about, or that's what educational leaders talk about. I shouldn't really be concerned. Well, actually, you should, because you experience education. You've got siblings that are experiencing it. So why wouldn't you care about shaping it?
I think that's fantastic. You're saying and thinking that. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I use the word caring a lot. I have this idea. I use the phrase. It's quite provocative, and it's not strictly true necessarily. I said that very few people care about education.
Yeah.
Or really care about our young people or care about creativity. They say they do, and I know they mean well. But it's only when you have kids as a parent, it's all very well being a child, you just get pushed through the system. When you're a parent, you think, wow, they're doing that to my kids? Hang on, this is technically the most precious thing in my life, and they want to do that to my kids? Sorry, but that's not on. And I don't know if you know my story.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I saw a TED Talk by Sir Ken Robinson. Have you seen that, I guess, have you?
I think you sent it to me.
Oh, did I? Had you not seen it?
No, I hadn't, no.
And what did you think of that?
Really, really interesting. Again, just open up your sort of perspective to it, and just being more open-minded, I think, is so important.
It's interesting set, because I thought, hang on, they want to teach creativity out of my kids. Did you, out of interest, think, hang on, they've just done that to me and I can see how they did it? Was there an element of that with you by any chance?
100%, yeah, 100%. And I think, just quickly adding to that point of when you said about people not caring about education, I think if you have the energy and effort to complain about something, you care. And that's what I'm trying to sort of like shift the narrative, in the sense of my friend saying, oh, I don't care, it doesn't concern me. But you complain about it every day, or you complain about something and you want things to be different. So you definitely do care about it. And so I think a lot of times we think that people that are the people that can drive forward the change, or, you know, be a part of changing the system, are the people that, you know, in the school terms, you know, the good students, the one with the badges, and the ideal pupils for the teachers. But actually, for me, why don't we tap into like the young people that might be getting excluded, or might have a completely different, more negative experience of education, because it's clearly not working for them. Therefore, they're going to have the sort of ideas and solutions for rectifying that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think it's what you say is lacking by lots of people many decades older than you, whose job it is to do and say what it is you're saying and doing. I mean, it's interesting. You're saying people do care if they bother to complain. That's a very good point. Would you agree, therefore, that the challenge is possibly to convert that caring, that complaining, into doing?
100%. That's what I think drives a lot of the work that I do, a lot of the campaigns, a lot of activism, because at the end of the day, I am a young person. I have my own hobbies, my own passions, beyond the sort of stuff I do here. And I am so passionate about it. And I'm also an A-level student, which is really demanding as well. And so people say it, teachers, my own friends, they always like put that aside for a second, or why do you care so much? Or they might even not even say it necessarily, but just the look in on their face is kind of like, why does this girl care so much about the things she talks about? And I think it comes back to that idea of challenging my own frustrations, and that's what keeps me going. And so if other people basically convert that frustration and that sort of those negative emotions, anger, like annoyance, all of those sort of things, if you convert that into action, then the world would definitely be a better place, because there's a lot of people who are frustrated, a lot of people that are angry, but they just sit about and complain rather than take action on it. Does that make sense?
Well, absolutely. I mean 300 million people have seen Sir Ken Robinson's TED Talk. I don't know how many people have done much about it. There's a guy, actually, I think was on the same Ashoka conference, called Joe Halgarton, who's an educational expert, was at the RSA. Are you a fellow of the RSA out of interest?
No.
Have you heard of the RSA?
I've heard of it, but not too familiar with it,
Okay,
no.
we'll talk about that. The Royal Society of Commercial Arts, Industries and Manufacturers, or something like that. But it's an organisation of people who want to walk the talk and make change happen. And you'd be gold for those guys down there. I'm a fellow of that. This is a fellowship project. But my point is that I've just launched a podcast series in memory of Sir Ken Robinson called #TalkWalkers20. 15 talks, maybe 20. With people who knew Sir Ken Robinson and what they're doing to actually bring that to life, because he passed away this summer. I don't know if you knew that. And I think you are his legacy, and if there's anything we can do to collaborate, to work together, to make things happen. I mean, I came into this 10 years ago knowing nothing, and I didn't care about education enough because I didn't have kids. We're all busy enough to just focus on what we need to care about in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one thing for me to say that Ken Robinson film was about how it impacts my kids, but for somebody with your level of consciousness and intellect and articulation and activism and energy, to have realised that happened to me last week, what can I do to make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else? What can I do to make that change happen? Is so inspiring. It really is. I mean, what are your thoughts moving forward? The university course, the educational thinking thing. Where do you go from here, Leah?
I just keep going, I guess. I mean, I don't see a lot of the times I used to think that, I've got to do things so fast. I've got to work now because there's things that need to be addressed. But actually, people remind me that a lot of the things I'm frustrated about, or the systemic flaws within the education system, are going to be here for a long time, and they definitely won't disappear overnight. And so on that note, I guess it's just being really, I think my biggest goal is just to open up the conversation more, to bridge the gap between young people and the policymakers and the people that are actually leading that change, which is why I was so happy and sort of proud to be a part of the Ashoka's Changemaker Summit, because there's so many incredible adults out there that are doing the work already, but they just need to connect with the young people that are doing it, because there are young people doing it, you're just not aware. And so I guess my sort of last words is I'm just going to continue that, ensure that whatever I go on to do, I'm always have that sort of hat on. That course I was talking about is extremely important to me, because it allows me to be more critical about the education system. And again, although I'm doing it in a more intellectual way, it's really important to join that with action, because I think it definitely, in, like you said, in higher education, there's a lot of talk, and there's a lot of realizing what the issues are and being critical about it, but then there's no sort of solutions or action after that. And so I feel like by me joining that course, what I would bring to it is, okay, so what are we now doing about it? We've realized this and this is a thing, or this and this is a problem, but now what happens next?
Right. No, I absolutely hear you, and I think your energy, your agency is fantastic. I mean, maybe we could sort of get together, maybe have a little Zoom call, see if there's any way we could maybe collaborate, or you could work with us or help
100%.
us out. I don't know if you'd be up for that. I'd love to work with you. We've got another young person, actually, Nikita, who's one of our production assistants working at the moment. She's a little bit more mature than you in terms of a few years, but she's a drama therapist and is doing incredible work. And I think what I want STEAMCO to be is a framework that people can drop in and out of through their career journey, their life journey, their personal learning journey, to bring stuff to us and for us to bring stuff to them, you know. And I think there's a lot that you could teach us, and maybe you could learn a few tricks and have some experiences working with us that you may not have had otherwise. So maybe we could work on that together.
100%.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah,
thank you so
definitely.
much.
And I was just quickly say
please
about
go.
when you mentioned about people like trying to create change. I think a lot of times you think you have to have it all together and that you need to know everything. And when you mentioned that that you didn't feel like you knew enough about education, you don't need to know anything. You just need to start with either that frustration or that initial interest, or even sometimes you don't even need to have the interest, but that sort of willingness and eagerness to just put yourself out there. And I honestly promise, like when people do that, I love so much about the work I do with People Power, because people join on the call with this sort of attitude of, why am I here? Like, this is not going to interest me, or I promise I'm probably not even going to turn up to another meeting after this. And then they come back, and then those are the actual ones that are coming with their ideas and saying, Aaliyah, let's do that, and that, let's start that project. And so I really do challenge, or urge, for anybody that is listening, or any adults out there, to encourage young people to just push themselves to get involved. You don't need to know what you're doing. You don't need to have any sort of skills, or you just need to be yourself and have that willingness and eagerness to get involved, and then everything will fall behind, because you just learn along the way. Like this sort of activism, I don't even still understand exactly what it is, but you just learn as you go, and you pick up the skills as you go.
Aaliyah, you really are an inspiration, a very, very inspiring young woman. And I hope that you're able to inspire other people of your generation below them to reevaluate education, the way they learn, the way they engage with it, the way they seize some agency to make the world a better place through education. Nelson Mandela once said that the most powerful weapon which we have with which to change the world is education. But
100%.
Absolutely. But education in that context is only as powerful and as right and as proper as the people who are running it. And we at STEAMCO are a bit aggro-y, we're opinionated, we're activisty. We are not bothered by party politics. This is not about party politics, this is about policy as it affects kids, creativity, and all our futures to us. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I hate party politics, literally.
Whatever.
And it's like, there's a difference between being involved in party politics and being politically activated and politically engaged. And so, yeah, a lot of times when I talk about my passion for politics, it's not about this party and the next party and, the sort of conflict that arises and the tensions between those parties. It's more so, like you said, exactly the policy and the government that's in the day and how they're shaping and influencing the sort of education that we have in the educational landscape. Because, again, when you look past the last 30 to 40 years, there's been massive shifts, and that's all to do with the sort of people that are in those positions of power. And
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's really important that we are engaging with them and hopefully influencing them and being more critical and reflective and reimagining.
You're absolutely right. I think your broad view is important. I mean, there are elements of the thinking that we have around creativity and community that seem more aligned with slightly left of centre or left-wing politics, whatever. I mean, I was unfriended by a very old friend who I've known for 20 odd years the other day because I said, oh, that Keir Starmer looks like a decent bloke, and he unfriended me because I wasn't left-wing enough. I don't know what his impression was. I just don't care for this. I'd rather just crack on. And, we've got a government in power at the moment. I disagree with a lot of what they do, and I've said it. I agree with some of the things they say. I'd like to see them walk the talk, but whatever. We're here today because of government funding from the Department of Digital, Culture, Media and Sport, HM Treasury, Arts Council England and the National Lottery. I can't think of a more broadly rounded group of organisations to fund what we're doing. I'm going to say goodbye now, Leah, and I'm going to play a very short film that I made with an interview that I had with Sir Ken Robinson in Liverpool 5 or 6 years ago when we launched STEAMCO in Liverpool, because in that Sir Ken talks about politics and policy. We are here today, tomorrow in Yorkshire. Tomorrow we're actually going to be in the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, which has in it at the grounds a building called Bretton Hall, where Sir Ken Robinson studied as a young person. And the power and the serendipity, this is not arranged, it's just how it happened. We needed someone to stay, and they said, yeah, come and crash here. And it's only as I drove here I realised the significance of this location. I know Lord Knight will know the significance of Bretton Hall, and I know that he will, in you, as I do, see the legacy of Sir Ken Robinson. Aaliyah, I can't thank you enough for your time for joining us today. Thank you, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Bless you. Thanks very much. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
One minute to midnight. Are you concerned about education? I am. One of my deepest concerns is that while education systems around the world are being reformed, many of these reforms are being driven by political and commercial interests that misunderstand how real people learn and how great schools actually work. As a result, they're damaging the prospects of countless young people. Sooner or later, for better or worse, they will affect you or someone you know. It's important to understand what these reforms are about. If you agree they're going in the wrong direction, I hope you will become part of the movement to a more holistic approach that nurtures the diverse talents of all our children. Just wondering what your thoughts are around that kind of political thing a little bit more.
We have to face the fact that education is a political issue, by which I mean it's a matter of public policy. It's an economic issue. You know, if it's true nationally, governments invest so much in education because they believe that a well-educated workforce will contribute to economic prosperity, and they're not wrong. That's absolutely true. It's not the same education that people of my generation needed in the 1950s and 1960s, but politicians behave as if it is. The problem is that the debate about education has become politicised. Political parties use it as a kind of punch bag and show how macho they are. They talk about tough new policies, and so typically speaking, the right wing of politics tends more towards the view that education should be all about direct instruction and learning facts and figures and so on, and getting back to traditional standards, whatever they believe they happen to have been. Some people on the left believe that education should be much more about freedom and self-expression, and the real balance that's required in education becomes lost in this political struggle. So I don't object to politicians having serious discussions about the real purpose of education, as long as they pay attention to what real people are actually like and what the sort of education we genuinely need to help our communities to flourish and to thrive.
Well, what can I say? But thank you very much, Sir Ken.
So there you have it, Sir Ken Robinson talking about policies, politics and the reality of this all. I did look out to see if anybody had anything to say for Aaliyah, and good old Chris Dyson. They're very inspirational, 18, isn't it remarkable? She was 17 when I saw her speak a couple of weeks ago, and it was her 18th birthday just the other day. Incredible young women, young woman. I think if we can honestly sit here comfortably knowing that young people like that are on it, have got our backs, because as Ken Robinson used to say, that's my pension we're talking about in their skills and their energies and their efforts. Incredible young people. We are now going to move on actually to an amazing guy actually who's quite prolific on Twitter. He's a super chap. We've done a fair bit of work at Steamco with it's all about, let's face it, a lot of people think education is around educating people for the workforce, to sit still in factories and offices, but we know those jobs don't exist anymore. So the skills that our young people need are going to be absolutely critical. So that career pathway is very important, and we've been delighted to collaborate with and be supported by and to support, it's all about working both ways, with an organisation called National Careers Week, who every year have a week where they focus on the career aspects for young people. And one of the members of their team is an incredible guy. He came all the way down from the Lake District one night for a little event we did in London Design Week. We had about 30, 40, I felt a bit embarrassed actually, about 30, 40 people there, and I'm lying, 20. And this bloke rocked up all the way from the Lake District. He's obviously desperate for a trip to London as far as I can see. But let's just see if we can get some buttons going here. He's got a bit of a giggle going on there. Bernie, how are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you.
And
nice to see you.
Andrew Bernard to his friends and on his business card probably. So
to my mum.
Check you out. Look, I'm glad you haven't got a flipping bookcase. I actually meant to say there's a bookcase ban on this event. We don't want any flipping bookcases. That's too BBC.
That's fine.
Looks
I've
like
been
you've
banished to the loft.
Looks like you've got a V-shaped beam on your head, mate. Is that strategically positioned like that?
Yeah,
Is it?
look at that.
Break the symmetry. What a lovely
1700s.
Check
like
you
an
out,
old
man.
ship.
Check you out. So whereabouts are you at the moment?
I'm in my attic at home, which, as you said, is near the Lake District, Kirby Lonsdale. Not far from Lancaster.
Oh, okay. I'll be honest with you, mate. I get a bit of bike envy because you seem to have a different bike for not every day of the week, but sort of morning and afternoon. Every day you've got a different bike out. What's that all about?
It's true to say I have a bit of a fleet. Yeah, I don't drink, so all the money I would have spent on beer and wine and stuff, I obviously squirrel away, and then it's basically my hobby to buy bikes. I used to buy and sell bits, but now I just stick to my standard fleet of bikes.
Well,
which is going to remain unnumbered.
You're a very, very lucky boy, aren't you? Blimey, most people, I'm based in London, if you're lucky, if you get a hook in the hall, you can hang a bike on. I've got my bike on the back. I'll tell you, if you saw my bike, mate, you'd have bike envy. I've got a GT Zizano. Do you know that one?
Yeah.
Titanium frame. My brother-in-law got it off a bloke who had the bike shop. It was a £3.5 grand frame. I got it for 300 quid. He got it for 500. And people stop me at the lights. It makes me very happy because I haven't even had the money to change the brake blocks on it for 5 years. I've still got thumb shifters. Anyway, too much train spotting. Bernie,
nice to see you.
So National Careers Week, let's get some context. What's that all about? What's behind all that? Because I know you're a director of that, aren't you?
Yes. Well, yes. For the last 5 years, I've been one of the directors. Started by Nick Newman in 2011 as an absolute reaction to government cuts, basically. 2010, we know which government came in then. 2011, lots of red lines through lots of funding support. And one of the ones was careers advisors and career support. So Nick started a campaign on Twitter called Save Careers, and which was about getting careers advisors, people who work in schools, supporting young people with their careers and their future vision to share what they were doing. So the idea was to raise awareness that there were loads of people out there, and almost regardless of whether there's money or not, we're still supporting young people's futures. And that's kind of where it started. Within a couple of years, Barclays Life Skills funded because they wanted to get involved with the kind of life skills and helping young people approach. And then a couple of years after that, we've been sponsored now for the last 7 years by RBS, who have now become NatWest Group Early Careers. So that's what we do. We deliver free training, free support, free it's all online anyway. It always has been an online kind of function. Loads of videos, loads of content, loads of downloadables, and that's kind of how it works. So this year it's almost come of age because there's been so much stuff going on online, so much virtual support, working from home. So we've made sure that every one of our bits of content, all our PDFs are editable, so teachers can download the stuff, send it out to students, whether they're in school or whether they're away. And also we've got loads of companies who come along and sponsor us year after year to make sure that young people get the support and get the knowledge about all sorts of careers.
Epic. So
long snapshot.
I must admit, I've come into all this, as you know, about 10 years ago, a bit of a blagger. 5 years ago, kind of up the game a bit, and I've learned words like pedagogy and stuff like that. Ooh, now, there's something that keeps coming up in all your careers chat, and it's like the benchmarks or something. It's like some benchmarks. Tell us about those, would you?
Well, as part of an organisation called the Gatsby Foundation, which is all about supporting young people.
Gatsby,
they come up with. You heard of them?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I was after. Yeah,
they've come up with the Gatsby. There are 8 Gatsby framework benchmarks, basically, to ensure that an organisation or a school, college, education establishment are supporting their young peoples accurately. Please don't ask me to describe to list them because I don't have them in front of me. However, they are things like a solid careers program, engagement with organisations and businesses, one-to-one guidance for every student at least once, meaningful encounters with employers. So it's that kind of support, that kind of a structure to the organisation, and a dedicated amount of funding, and also ideally a dedicated, either a 50% or 100% dedicated member of staff whose role is to deliver careers and futures education alongside the academic support.
So not just talking it, but actually making sure that they've got everything in place to walk it. That's what you're talking about then, isn't it?
Absolutely. Fascinating to listen to Aaliyah earlier on and what she's trying to do in terms of changing the way people are educated. As you know, I've been kind of, I've written a book called The Ladder, which is about.
Tell us about that. Yeah, but don't be afraid to plug your book, mate. This isn't Jonathan Ross. Go for it. Get in early.
I'm going to be very, very short.
Have you got a copy there? Have you got the cover? Because it was quite a cool graphic, wasn't it? Or is it just digital at the moment?
It is. I haven't got it printed off.
Oh,
sorry. See, I'm not here doing a Jonathan Ross.
No,
I haven't got a big hand with it on or anything. The Ladder is about how schools and all teachers in all subjects can link their future thinking to what they're doing with their young people. So instead of literally having a kind of bolt-on careers day once a month or once a year or once a term, this is a way of helping teachers in really simple simple tools, simple techniques to try and link what they're learning every day towards what might be useful in the future. And I've kind of steered away from the approach that allows you to see, well, these are the jobs you're going to work with, rather than this is the future that might be coming up, but here's the skills that you're going to need for that future. So I've taken on board Tony Wagner's 7 Skills for the Future approach, which came from the Global Achievement Gap, and I've woven that into the book. So to make sure that we see a set of 7 skills that are developed, rather than just ticking a box on, you know, maths this, English that, geography that. So I've tried to make it an approach which would help to make people happy and fulfilled. Thank you very much. Wow, look at that. Happy and fulfilled, as well as just getting the grades for GCSEs. You're an expert at this.
That's why we don't use Zoom, you see.
Classic.
Makes me laugh. People say, well, if it's not Zoom, I'm not having anything to do with it, just because they're kind of comfortable with Zoom. But you've seen the kit we've got here, haven't you, and what we're up to?
Great, yeah.
So basically, I mean, sometimes you just got to do it. I think people deserve a little bit more. But no, that sounds really good, Bernie. So I know you, because you've obviously you've got the directorship with National Careers Week, but obviously you've got a consultancy thing of your own, which I know very much integrates with that as well. Tell us a bit about that, because I really loved the sound of that when you told us about that down in London that time.
That's kind of where it started from. Innovative enterprise was something that I came to after wasting 17 years in the wrong job, because to be perfectly honest, at 16 and 17, I rebelled against my parents, who said, you should stay at school rather than going to college. They made me stay at the grammar school. I mean, they'd moved to get me into the catchment area for the grammar school. I was obviously, you know, clever enough but didn't use it, which was something I had on every school report ever. Has intelligence but doesn't use it. And then I just went, this is not fair. All my mates have gone off where they can be taught with girls, they can wear their own clothes, and they get treated like adults. So I just went, do you know what? I can do what I want. No one's telling me what to do. So I got arrested. I started stealing clothes. I started fighting at football matches. And, you know, I just became obsessed with the wrong things. Came out with an E and a U. Eventually then did a business studies degree, because I thought, oh, that'll help. But actually, you know, jack of all trades, master of none. And I did 17 years in kind of all sorts of managerial and jobs which were absolutely unsuited to me. Woke up one day, and then as I left work that day, I realised that the best part of my day was leaving work.
Really?
And I just thought, I've got a young family. I've just moved to the Lake District. You know, I've paid well, but this is the best part of my day. When those doors open and that cold air hit me on the face, I just thought something needs to change. So I became the person I really needed when I was younger. So that's been my mission. And we worked with about 150,000 young people in the last 15 years, delivering enterprise workshops. One of them is a creative one where they make soap. Think about packaging, think about branding, and think about starting up your own business. And that leads me on to I think one of the reasons you asked me to come on here, which was my recent blog about basically the world breaking its contract with young people again, which Aaliyah York was talking about.
I knew there was a reason I got you on. I'll be honest, my head's so rumbled. I'm glad you remembered, actually. Thanks for that, Bernie. Yeah, you did my job. Brilliant. Thanks. Go for it.
Good segue. Neat. And I wrote a blog because I just realised that I saw a thing about house prices over decades ago. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of a snapshot. I found it on Schroders today, like a finance and reporting house. In 1990, the average house price was 4 times the average salary in the UK. Okay?
Right, got you.
In the UK now, it's 8 times the average salary. And salaries haven't gone up that much, but the house pricing has doubled from 4 times to 8 times. If you live in London, it's 11 times the average wage. If you're a woman on your own in London, the average house price is 13 times your wage. So, you know, people are saying, oh, why haven't you got a deposit? You haven't been able to save for a deposit. The corollary to try and buy in your own house is that lots of landlords now have housing, and the price for rent has gone up and up and up because people can't afford to buy. And this is just one example of the way that the world's broken its contract with young people. So you can't save because everything's really expensive. You can't afford, you know, public transport's gone up and is less reliable than it ever has been. Everything's gone up in price, but actually the bottom line is salaries haven't abilities to grow your support, grow your career hasn't really grown. COVID is going to really change that. Brexit is going to really change that in the long term. There's going to be less opportunities to go and to work hard and get a proper job and then move up through the kind of traditional ranks of, I suppose, life experience that our parents and our parents' parents could guarantee. Margaret Thatcher gave a speech in 1987 when she said there's no such thing as society.
Tell me about it.
It wasn't true. It was a prediction and a strategy. And by selling off council housing, by changing the way public services were sold off, the railways, bus services, the infrastructure, roads, all of that stuff, gas, electricity, water, it all went into private hands. So there was no kind of comeback for GB PLC. There was no need for people to kind of create jobs and keep jobs open. It was all about slashing and slashing and slashing, keeping money going to the shareholders, which were people like our mums and dads who bought shares for the first time ever because it was kind of democratized. So actually, people were duped into believing that they were buying themselves some freedom, but in fact, what it's done is trapped further generations of young people and their ancestors and their descendants in lots of misery, lots of debt, and a limited ability to kind of go up the ladder as they want. We should want our kids to be better off than us. We should want our kids to develop further and have more skills and more fulfilling lives than us. But I think actually that's almost been taken away from them. So I
hear what you're saying. I think if we're not careful though, if we all aspire
it's a bit depressing.
I think if we aspire for the best or better for our kids than we had, we're subscribing to that infinite growth equation which is the curse of everything actually. It's that because that's ultimately shareholders' return. I know exactly what you mean, and in some settings, I was with families yesterday who've got nothing on an estate in Leeds, and it's heartbreaking, man. It really is, and they
work really hard. It's not like they're sitting around, this typical view of people with massive TVs sitting on their asses all day. It's not true. People work really hard just to get food on the table.
I was chatting to a mum down there. She has a point of not claiming benefits, not doing this, not even having free school meals, but the money that family's bringing in is well below the threshold to claim those things.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, I'm that sort of middle class. There's no shame for me. Any money I can have, I'll have it. I've got no shame when it comes to that. And it's a shame that she has that view, but I respect that pride. Yeah. And one can't judge other people like that. But mate, no. I mean, what you're doing is really important. I'll be honest with you. I try and avoid the party politics. Does this mean you're a bunch of crazy lefties then on the Careers Week? It sounds a bit like it.
I'm not going to speak for anybody else on the Careers Week board, but
you're the only crazy lefty.
I think if you're even moderately left now, because the country's lurched so far to the right, people have been painted as these lunatic, socialist nutters who are like Venezuela, and I think we've gone so far to the right. The newspapers are following that dynamic as well. The fact that they're now calling anyone who's a kind of human rights lawyer a lefty lawyer or a do-gooder. What's wrong with doing good?
It's
and I'm going to continue to do good. So leading on to what that blog kind of forced me to think about. In fact, it's kind of forming the base. And as I'm talking to you, I'm bringing in more threads. My next book is going to be about this was your promise. This is where we are now. Almost, you're on your own, and here's a load of things that you're going to have to do to make the world a little bit fairer for yourself.
Fair enough. And I just want to be quite clear. I'm not marking anybody on the left of politics as loony or crazy, other than...
No, I know you're not.
Well, yeah, but hang on. But other than if they alienate people who share 80% of what they have in common because of the 20% they're prepared to have a fight about, that's... I nearly swore there. That's effing lunatic. That's crazy. And that's the problem. People are fighting each other, and it's almost as if somebody's been thrown into the camp to wind everybody up so that they can't even sort of get form any sort of valid opposition. I'm not going to go into the politics anymore than that at the moment.
I did hear your point earlier on about the kind of cult of Corbyn, and if you're now kind of... Kit Starmer is kind of like a Tony Blair figure. He's going to be very divisive because he's sharply dressed. He's not your typical kind of Labour politician, Labour leader. But I think the world has moved so far in the other direction, that we need someone with a slightly more balanced view. And I'm not slagging off Corbyn, because I actually think his heart is in the right place.
Absolutely.
And I think he had very, very good he was genuine, but unpalatable.
It's a toxic environment in which any politician operates. I mean, Keir Starmer, as it
Certainly
happens,
is at the moment.
Keir Starmer is the MP for the area that my son's school is in, Camden. I don't live in Camden, I live just down the road. I've met him several times socially. I've met him at school events. I've met him at, I've seen him speak and asked him a question at an event he did for the Creative Industries Federation.
Yep.
And I said this about Tony Blair at the time. These are people who care. You know, care enough to start Sure Start, care enough to try and make some differences. You know, it doesn't just, you know, and it's also damn binary. You've seen the tits and tats I have about this hashtag education binary thinking and all this nonsense. It's deliberately divisive. And what kills me, mate, to be honest, more now, I'm going to say this right here, right now, what really pisses me off is people who will ostracise me and blank me for saying that about people who are like that, and then even though they're on this kind of same sort of wavelength with me, or I'm a bit negative for doing that, how do you say positive things about some of the nasty stuff that's happened in education, health, creativity? There's a creativity crisis.
Very hard
it's
to
documented.
turn the other cheek, isn't it?
So, and anybody who's going to say, "Oh, I don't really like you because you're a bit negative," well, I'm sorry. Well, good luck with your strategy then. Do you know what I mean? Bernie, I'm going to have to knock it on the head.
Exactly as Aaliyah was just saying, if you've got the energy and you've got the kind of viewpoint to moan about something, then actually you've also got the power within yourself to do something about it. And I think that's certainly where I'm coming from now. I'm trying to empower young people. My book is about empowering young people. My next book is about really getting people to think, well, this is where we are. This is the history. It hasn't always been like this. You could make it different, which I'm going to just lead on again to one of the other things that we talked about, Nick, last week was my business in your hand project, which is something that came out of that blog that I wrote.
Oh yeah.
It's hashtag business in your hand. And what I realized was I worked with some young people just after September. We started working in a youth club face to face, socially distanced in West Cumbria, where unless you've got a job at somewhere like Sellafield or one of the major manufacturers, you're really struggling to find work because there's not a lot of work in the middle of Cumbria. It's beautiful. The Lake District are there. It's a fantastic tourist location. Obviously, this year, you can imagine there's not much work going on. There's not much going on, and there's been years and years and years of generational under and unemployment. So my idea was, let's start a business with what you've got in the palm of your hand. And so I went in and started. You know, this thing here has every device that an office used to have, say, 20 years ago. It's got every single communication device you need. And 95% of young people have got one of these. Even if they can't really afford it, they will find a way to get one. If they can't, you know, beg, borrow, steal, not steal, beg, borrow, you know, repurpose, then I just figured, look, you've got it there. You can start selling immediately. Within half an hour, you could set up a Depop account and sell any branded clothes that you've got that you don't wear anymore. You could set up an eBay account, sell some of your old toys, sell some of your old computer games that you don't play anymore. Sell stuff that obviously belongs to you, but actually you can take photos. You can learn about the kind of proper language to use. You can, if you're selling clothes on Depop, get one of your good-looking friends to be a model. Your Depop photos go on. You stick them on eBay, on Instagram, put them on your Instagram, so you've got like a nice few models on your page, link in bio, people buy clothes from you. That's as easy as that. So within half an hour, within an hour, within 2 hours, you've got a business. Within a week, you've already got some sales, which then helps you. You could even get to the point where you can buy products from other people, buy stuff from your mates that they don't use anymore, bid for stuff on eBay, get it, clean it, iron it, hang it up, take a good photo, double your money within 2 weeks. You know, there's loads of ways that you can start a business in your palm of your hand. That's what I've been advocating. And there's a 33 series video under that hashtag on Twitter, Instagram, and on LinkedIn. So that's business in your hand.
Great to talk to you again, Bernie. Really
No
is.
problem, mate.
So that's your new book, The Ladder. When's that out, Bernie? When can we get a copy of
That's
that?
out February.
Sort me one out, will you? I can't afford to buy any books.
Not a problem. I shall send you one of my proof copies.
I'd be delighted. I'll put
It's
some.
just at the point where it's getting laid out now. It's a bit scary. It's becoming a real thing now.
I wrote a book a few years ago, a little pamphlet thing, which Chris Dyson helped me get out. We had some feedback, actually. Chris popped a little comment in here. Chris said, great work, Andrew. So when Chris Dyson gives you the magic touch, you know you're flying, mate. I tell you, you don't need no ladders with Chris behind you.
Absolutely.
That's what they call a fair wind. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Bernie. Love to the posse.
Brilliant.
So Stephen, isn't it? Stephen, Nick. I know Emma Hardy up there in Hull does a lot of work to support you guys, doesn't she? She's
She
great.
absolutely does.
Yeah.
She's one of our a brilliant advocate.
Fantastic. Yeah. I'm going to crash now. Thanks a lot, man. I'm going to play.
Thanks for having me on.
Check this out. So tonight, just to remind you, tonight we've got a song the City Lights were supposed to be doing, but they've had a bit of some issues with COVID, which has knocked us out a little bit. But not to worry. Titania, which is the school band from Parklands Primary, going to headline. We've got a lad called Alex from Manchester. We've got Boff Wally singing with Chris Dyson. But just now, I'd like to cut back to a little moment that we had at Parklands Primary just a few weeks ago with the legendary Chris Dyson on stage. And I can't see it because I've got the wrong screen up. Thanks a lot, Andrew. Catch you soon, mate. Bye-bye. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to do an art show through the grounds just for local residents on a timed basis, COVID secure, 2 metres. If people want to put art in that, go to the website and nominate your stuff for that. Download this flyer. We're going to build a massive stage. We're going to have bands, we're going to have performances. The first band that we are announcing today is this incredible band here called City Lights. They're a band from Birmingham. They say a little bit like the Specials, a bit like the Arctic Monkeys. I don't know if you've heard of them, Chris, have you?
Oh, they're another Sheffield band?
Which, oh, the Arctic Monkeys. Yeah. Well, let's see if we can get them up as well then. So basically, this is the song that we're going to be singing. This is the anthem of the festival, I'm a Rock Star. People used to call me a legend. I didn't realise they were actually calling me a legend. Is that right? Or is
It's a nice Yorkshire phrase, being a legend.
So your brief, should you choose to accept it, Mr. Dyson, is to basically get your boys and girls, all the community to learn the words to this song, so that when we come back, because I've heard you guys singing in this school, get everybody singing. This is one of the songs you want to be singing. How do you fancy that? Do you reckon you can get them to learn the chorus?
Why not?
Why not?
When there was never any doubt, was never chasing clout, I wasn't even chasing any status. And you know you all have to rate us, cause I'll always be a rock star, even if I never get famous. They said you ever get a job it will be dead end. They didn't know that I would grow to be a legend. I'm a rock star. Ooh, I'm a rock star. They said you ever get a job it will be dead end. They didn't know that I would grow to be a legend. I'm a rock star. Ooh, I'm a rock star. I'm a rock star. Ooh, I'm a rock star.
Oh dear, as ever, caught with my trousers down, trying to get some stuff sorted out here. So, fantastic chat there with Andrew Andrew Bernard from. Better get rid of that little banner there. No, did I have that running all the way through? That's a shame. Okay. Oh my goodness, what's the time, Malumba?
16:24.
16:24. So who's next? Who's next?
We are going to have something with Drew Purvey.
Drew Purvey. Povey. Can't get the stuff. Let's put that in.
Afternoon.
Let's put a little banner in. So this is brilliant. I'm hoping this is where we have to cut to the cardboard pyramid stage. Actually, I'd like you to all imagine that pile of cardboard boxes is a cardboard pyramid stage, right? That's been built, not pyramid stage, Tracy Island stage. That's been built, and I'd like you to imagine. Are you watching, Chris Dyson? This is going to be one of the highlights. Let's see if are you there, Chris Dyson? Let's are you there, Mr. Dyson? Let's see if Mr. Dyson is locked on, because we're just about to actually break the internet, I'm fairly sure. So I don't want to rush this. He might be having his tea now. Are you there, Mr. Dyson? Are you there? We're not going to call you. Don't worry, I'm not calling you up. Let's just see if Mr. Dyson's locked on, if he's one of the 2,000 people who are watching at the moment. I'm sure they measure it in thousands. I'll go a quick slug of it. Because we are just about to break the internet. So, are you there, Mr. Dyson, was the message. We put a shout out, are you there, Mr. Dyson? Mr. Dyson came back to say, yes, indeed. And one of the things I have to ask Mr. Dyson to do on a fairly regular basis is to use his imagination, and he knows that. He knows that. He loves doing that because he is all about creativity. He looks at that pile of boxes and he imagines me on a stage in front of a bit of cardboard doing this. Okay, well, I'm absolutely delighted now. We have got a really, really super special guest, a really lovely chap who I must admit I did actually bump into when I was with Chris Dyson in London a couple of months ago. And you may have seen him on the telly. He's in one of those educating something or other. So let's press this button here and see if I can get... Oh, here he is, Drew Povey. How are you, young man?
I'm not too bad, thank you. All the better for being called young, which happens less and less in my life these days, Nick.
I've got a birthday sometimes around now, so I don't really want to go into that. So let's move on swiftly. So we've got a question actually from somebody in the control room. Says, "Is he the bloke on the telly in it?" Are you on the telly at the moment, Drew? Is that right? Is it? You've been on the telly lately?
Yeah, we certainly have. You know, it was fantastic to see our kids at their brilliant best on the screen. So yeah, that's gone out over the last few weeks.
Educating Manchester. I'm sure that's been done to death. I hope you don't mind, but I don't really want to talk about that. Is that all right? I'd rather kind of crack on.
Bye, mate.
It's all good. We've got a whole load of Vic Goddard books to give away actually, because he did educating. Where did he do? Educating Essex.
He was the original. He was like the godfather of the educating series.
That's right, and I heard you had a bit of a fight to be Essex and you lost, so you had Manchester, did you? Well, not to worry.
Yeah, well, no, he's a big lad, Vic, so I wouldn't be doing that. I have to say, Vic is one of the best guys you'll meet. We've spoken at a couple of events together, and he's just one of life's good people, always willing to kind of share advice, have a laugh. He's just a good bloke.
It's funny because he's one of those people I'd love to get on this weekend, and he's the sort of person who'd never say no. He'd just step up. I know what these guys are going through at the moment, you know, and I just could not do that to him. He came on in the summer, and I felt the stress then, and that was July, I think. So goodness no, these leaders. I mean, leadership in schools, Drew. I mean, what are your thoughts around that? The kind of skills, the attributes for that job? Because I know you've had your turn there, and you're doing some other work now. We'll go on to that in a minute. But what are your thoughts about leadership in schools, particularly at the moment?
I think leadership in schools is a tough gig. It definitely doesn't get the credit it deserves in terms of a leadership role. If you think about what a head teacher actually does, it's enormous in terms of creating a vision, not just for the school or for the staff, but actually for a whole community. It's a big job. And of course, in the last 12 months, there's just been added stuff on top that they've had to navigate. And I think a lot of people have looked to school leaders. Again, if you look at our good mate, Chris Dyson, what he's been doing in his local community, I think they've been community leaders, and in many ways they've had a huge impact. And I know that's not always been easy, but they've had a huge impact on kind of education direction as well. And when people haven't quite been sure what to do, it's the head teachers that have been stepping up and being that leading light. So big job, and it's been made even bigger in the last 12 months for sure.
And I know you do little sort of videos in the morning. I mean, if you were to do a little video like that, or a little comment now for teachers, leaders who I know are on their last legs, what would your advice be to them? So, because I know you do a lot of work in the commercial round. Are there any messages, any advice, any little thoughts that you might put in their heads to get them through the next 2 weeks up to Christmas?
Caffeine, lots of it.
So
I would say no, but I think in all seriousness, we do have to remember that the teachers literally are creating tomorrow's world, and that is probably an overused phrase, and it can just trip off the tongue and we forget the actual meaning of it. You know, I've got 3 boys, one's at college, one's at secondary school, one's at primary school, and I'm handing my most prized asset over to these brilliant teachers, these educators, to these leaders, and that's all staff in schools, by the way, not just the teachers. And we hand our most prized asset over and say, you know, go for it and do some great stuff. And I think there is a greater understanding as well for what teachers do, and the skills and the damn patience that's needed to do the job, because a lot of the world has been homeschooling over the last few months, and I think they've all had to get to grips with what this thing called teaching and education actually is.
So, I mean, obviously a big difference between homeschooling, when it's just about making sure your kids do the homework the school set, and home education, where you've actually got a whole curriculum and a whole school going at home. What would your advice and thoughts be if somebody says, hey, hey Drew, should we homeschool? Should we home educate? Any tips? What are you saying to people?
Well, it's an interesting question because we often get asked that when I'm doing corporate events. They're like, well, you used to work in education. Could you do us a favour and give us some tips? Because we're all homeschooled and we haven't got a clue. One of my favourite things on Twitter, and there's been some good stuff on Twitter, there's been some negative stuff as well, but one of my favourite things I saw was one professor at a university has said, now I've had to homeschool for 2 days, every teacher should be paid £1 million a year without question. And of course, I think every teacher was kind of banging the drum on that one. But a lot of the people in the corporate world are saying, how do we do it? And of course, there's so many elements that we'd want to look at. You know, teachers set those expectations in terms of aiming high, getting the best out of young people, giving them the belief when sometimes those young people don't believe in themselves. But as well as setting expectations, it's about the boundaries that we are so good at in education. You know, this is kind of what you work within. And of course, trying to do that at home, even me with our kids at our house, you know, it's not as easy as it is with your own kids. You know, probably better in a classroom than I was with my own kids, but it's setting those boundaries and it's working with them, I suppose, and constantly caring for them at the same time. And those three things are, you know, really driving the standards, putting those boundaries in because everyone needs to know where they stand, but at the same time having that complete care and always being there for the young people. It's a big ask for a teacher, and of course, you know, for a parent to do that at home is a big ask too.
It's interesting because, I mean, do you really think that the general public really do appreciate and value teachers? I mean, I know people make those jokes, but they realise how hard it is. I've started working in schools 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm in awe of the work they do because it's non-stop. They don't switch off, do they, at all? It's full on. And do you think that appreciation really is there, and do you think that's important?
Well, I think it's hugely important. Whether it's there or not, I'm not quite sure. I think there was a golden moment actually during COVID where when people were homeschooling, they were going like, wow, this is what teachers are doing every day. This is hardcore. I think when we started coming back into schools, you know, we forget first what we learnt last kind of thing. So I think people are like, well, the teachers can get on, they can get back in the school. And there was all those debates about, well, how safe is this and are people at risk? So I think some of that can be lost. But I definitely think there's a greater understanding now of what teachers do. And again, I've got to make the point, it's not just teaching staff. You know, I started off my career as a TA and love that job. And it's not just, of course, the TAs either. It's about the admin staff that work in schools. It's about everybody that goes into the building is working with those young people, giving them the very best. I'd like to think at the end of this year, people do reflect on it and go, look, education's been a big driver here to get the economy back going, to get people back in work. The teachers have sacrificed a lot, and I think the teachers have done a lot too. And it's a shame sometimes on Twitter because education can do this infighting, which is a shame, because I think actually what we should be doing is celebrating the great work that people are doing rather than point scoring. But we're probably no different from politicians on that front.
Fair enough. I mean, one of the big debates at the moment, and our audience today is very much parents and teachers and what we call creative carers. I think people who care about creativity, care about kids, and who care about all our futures. So let's keep the answers as broad as we can. But there's a lot of talk about people falling back. There's a widening gap between some kids in, let's say, independent schools who haven't missed a step, some kids in state schools who've got some tech and the schools have been on the ball and done that, and then some kids, I know Chris has struggled to get even a few laptops for his kids. What are your thoughts about, is that significant, and what are we measuring when we say that they're falling behind? Falling behind what? Who says?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one to know, isn't it? Because it's not just about, of course, their academic development. It's about their personal development, them as people. It's about their social interaction and that, you know, being in a classroom, understanding other people's opinions, being able to work together. There's a whole raft of different things. And of course, helping young people with some of the mental health issues that will definitely have come about because people have been locked down and it has been very different. So I think it'll be varied depending on where you look at and the experiences that people have had. And I think it's a really hard one to call. What I will say is that what I do think education does brilliantly well, and I think we do it better than we actually let on in society, is we'll find a way of plugging those gaps. We'll find a way of adapting. We are good at bobbing and weaving as human beings. We might not like change, but we're good at it. And actually, I think we will find a way of working through this and giving the best to our young people. And let's not forget that these young people are incredibly resilient too. You know, young people are incredibly resilient, and they can change and they can adapt. So there's a whole lot of hope from me. And some people might say, well, that's putting a lot of pressure on the schools. I don't think it's just the schools. I think everybody has to take responsibility for this, and there needs to be consideration in this as we look at the whole education system. And there in itself probably lies a huge opportunity for some, you know, for all school leaders actually, not just some, to kind of step up and say, what do we really want our education system to look like?
I know, spot on. I mean, I know that you worked in the secondary sector in a fairly mixed setting, so you had children from a whole range of social backgrounds there. And I've heard and spoken to primary teachers in the same area in Manchester, Salford, and they've got children, babies there, well, not babies, children going into reception and the early years who are literally in nappies. They really can't function themselves. So I'd imagine every minute, every day, every hour in an early years setting is critical to giving those kids a foundation, whereas a secondary student who might miss a bit of 20th century history, that's not the end of the world, although it suddenly is when they come to exams, isn't it? What are your thoughts around that and you know, this social mobility phrase that people use a lot?
Well, I mean, that's a whole conversation in itself. There are going to be gaps, and I think we have to be pragmatic about this. And I think at all phases of a young person's development, there are going to be gaps as a result of what's missed now. I suppose it's trying to fill those gaps in the smartest way possible, without, of course, you know, overloading the young people and the education system that already, you know, squeaks under the strain from time to time. I think we're going to have to find a smart way of doing it, but like most things, it's finding out where those gaps are, and it will be different for different people, depending, as you rightly said, you know, what kind of experience did they have when they were locked down? What was that like for them? Okay, what are the areas that you've kind of got there? And like everything else in life, there'll be some advantages to their lockdown experiences, as there'll be some drawbacks to that as well.
Fantastic. I'm hoping to get Chris Dyson on here, actually. I mean, what are your thoughts about Chris? I know you've met him a few times. I've seen you keynote at the same event as him, which I thought was any excuse for a jolly as far as I'm concerned. But, I mean, you're an experienced school leader, school community leader. You're an experienced innovation coach, leadership coach. What are your observations about Chris Dyson before we get him up? And let's see if his head can get in the room after this. But
well, I would always say this, and people go, oh, come on, Drew, or they go, you're fishing for compliments. None of those things. I'm a realist. I'm an optimist, but I'm a realistic optimist. I wasn't a great head teacher. I think I was right for what the school was going through. I believed in the kids. But I look at people like Avik Goddard or a Chris Dyson. So many fantastic head teachers. Good mate of mine, Phil Denton, over in Ormskirk at St Bede's. These people are doing incredible work. And what I think I'm going to have to say is what I said at the beginning of this. This is not just about running a school, even though that itself is a big deal. I mean, that is a big deal. It's a big responsibility. What I would say is these people are driving communities. You know, if you go back to and I'm not wanting to get like overly historical here, but you go back to that whole idea of social capital, and actually, where is the cornerstone of society? You know, when fewer people are going to church now, and we haven't got the local shops, and people don't just go to the local pub, they kind of travel out. The school is the cornerstone of the community. Post offices are gone, and the local cop shops are not manned full time. It's the school that is relying on doing everything. And these school leaders, wow, how they are leading already in a very difficult system is incredible. Add the COVID stuff on top, as I said earlier, is amazing. And I think we need to celebrate this. You know, I'm a big one to say, you know, we'll get on people's cases when they're not doing it. Absolutely, we should always do that. We should, you know, look at what's not going well. I just don't think we're good at celebrating the success. And, you know, I do still have the privilege of working with a few schools and working with school leaders, and they are brilliant. And the staff in the schools are doing an incredible job. And I really think we've got to shine a light on what's right. We've got to celebrate the good stuff. And when you get somebody like Chris Dyson, who is literally like ripping up the script of what the expectations would be in his community, and he's rewriting the story, he's rewriting young people's journeys, like, there can't be anything better than that. It's got to be one of the most exciting things you can see. So for me, he's a great education hero of mine. He's a fantastic guy, as honest as they come. He'll say things even if it gets him in trouble, if he believes it to be absolutely true. And I have to say, he's a really good friend too.
Fantastic. Well, you can't beat that. Blimey, that's his reference if he does need another job sorted. So we've got a lot of parents on today, Drew. What's your advice to them in this world, trying to make education work, especially well, you've got 3. I mean, there's a book, actually, Stephen Biddulph, I don't know if you read it, Raising Boys. A boy needs a mum till they're 4, a dad till they're 4 to 11, and then a mentor 11 plus, because they're not going to listen to their mum or their dad. I mean, what are your thoughts around those 3 generations of manhood, if you like, in this case, or youth, to make it more generic, and advice to parents that goes with that?
I think it's always difficult. I think it's always more nuanced than that. I love models. I love ways of framing things, but I just think it's got to be more nuanced. I think it's the power of the relationship that you have with your kids. You know, it's being able to have honest conversations with them, brutally honest conversations. I'm really keen on, if you get it wrong as a parent, you've just got to front that up. You know, I'm finding myself more and more apologising to my kids because I haven't got something right or was a bit short on something. But it's the power of the relationship. And the other thing, I think, is we talk about this a lot in leadership, don't we? The power of psychological safety, you know, people feeling secure and people feeling it's okay not to know within a team environment. We use it a lot in sport. I think it's exactly the same with parenting. You know, kids have got to feel that they can come in and they can just offload and be able to have a conversation and not necessarily be judged, but they know there's consequences to the behaviour. And then all the stuff we said earlier about having the care, having those strict boundaries. You know, everyone needs to know where they stand. Whenever you ask kids in school what they like about their best teachers, there'll be something to do with discipline and boundaries that will come up in the top 5 every single time I've done it. So people do want to know where they stand. People want to know that people care, but people want to believe in them. And I think when you get somebody that believes in you as an adult, as a 0 to 4 year old, as a junior, primary school, junior school kid, secondary school kid, college, university adults, we all need someone to have that belief in us when sometimes we don't have it ourselves. So there will be my main 4 things I'd probably say.
Fantastic. Well, I've got a bit of good news, actually. I've got Chris Dyson in the corner here, so I'm just going to turn him up. Chris Dyson, can you hear us?
Loud and clear, Nicholas.
Brilliant.
And Drew.
So
How are you guys?
That means I've got to press some buttons to get you up here. Hang on a second. Let's get him up there.
How are you doing, Chris?
Buzzing like a fridge.
Do you know what? I've heard you say that phrase so many times and I still don't really understand it, but I just like it.
Yeah, it's great. It's a bit of Radiohead, you know, with all the art and creativity and music we're doing this this weekend and things. Nice to have a bit of buzzing like a fridge dropped in there.
I like it. How's things up at Parklands?
Absolutely brilliant. Just getting the gear of things for the best Christmas spectacular ever. Got the hall all set up, ready for Friday's lighting up the Christmas tree and the carol concert that will follow and the rock kids that are coming in and the now press play. You know, fantastic.
Don't give too much away, mate.
You're doing your Christmas Day again?
No, I've changed it now. Put it all in that sort of last week of term because we're unfortunately still on tier 3. Hence, that's why we're doing this thing this weekend virtually as opposed to in real life and things. So.
Fantastic.
So Chris, I'm surprised you could get your head in the room actually, because Drew was just bigging you up. Give us the condensed version, Joe, and see what Chris says to that.
Well, I was just talking about head teachers doing a great job, but in terms of head teachers and people standing up there and being a leading light and asking important questions and big questions and challenging the way things are being done, you've done that. You're as honest as a bloke as you'll ever meet. And I was just saying, what a great mate you are, as we always say, great mates. So that was my introduction for you, Mr. Dyson.
Beautiful. And it's all reciprocated, you know. It was just great seeing you shining bright and shining like a light and educating Greater Manchester for the last few weeks. I noticed your Twitter followers went up by 6,000 people in a month. That's not bad going, that young man. That's not bad going.
Do you know what? It's only because you said that would I realise. I didn't even know any. I just don't track that kind of thing. And it was when you said it, I was like, oh, yeah.
So well deserved though. Real inspiration.
So Chris, what's
been a great source of advice and to me. Lovely.
So Chris, what are your thoughts about Drew as school leader and sort of his strengths, looking back and what you've seen on the programme and what you know
inspirational. The way in which he use a sport to sort of guide his sort of leadership strategy is absolutely fantastic. Seeing the relationship with those kids, in the series. Episode 1 was arguably episode 1 of series 2 was arguably my best ever education greatest series out of all of them. I'm not really into pets and things, so I didn't like the second one as much, but lots of people did and things. But I think the thing, that positivity that came out of it was the way in which he speaks to people, the restorative sort of aspect, and the hopes and dreams that those children in that community had. So,
Chris, this weekend we're talking about, I was just chatting to Drew about this idea of social mobility, for want of a better phrase, but, the aim high thing. What does aiming high mean to you, Chris, and the kids in the community here?
It means that where you're born and things like that, it shouldn't stop you achieving your dreams. What a lot of people don't know on here is that, I was one of those kids sort of growing up. I had free school meals. I had to come out of school for free school clothes. And this is back in a time when there was only probably one free school meals person in the school, and that was myself and things. So aiming high, no barriers. You can achieve absolutely anything that you want to achieve. And when you think about how our maths scores are up there, the best schools against the best schools in the country for our progress and our standards in maths, shows that these children with a bit of dream, bit of love, bit of hope, can achieve absolutely anything.
Bang on. What do you reckon to that, Drew? You down with that?
Absolutely, and it's testament to the work that can happen when someone puts a vision out there and then someone believes in those kids. And for me, the key word there Chris used, and I've been fortunate to go to Parklands. I think a couple of times now, Chris, I've been up there, and it's just full of hope. And you can't have enough hope in life. And some people think it's an overused term, but I always say when there's hope on the horizon, there's power in the present. And when you go to Parklands, every single person is believing that those kids can achieve literally anything. And as a result of that, you're swept along with the wave. And that's why those kids are doing what they're doing. There's a whole load of bank of psychology behind it, but it is utterly inspirational to go up there and see that. And I worry that word gets used too much sometimes, but when you go there, it's an experience like no other. I've said this before, I've said it on Twitter, I'll keep saying it. It's like nowhere I've ever been before. It's a very, very special place run by very, very special people.
Well, I was down at school, Prince of Wales School recently. They have a little hashtag inspired to learn, and we're chatting to them today as well. I think one of the keys for me with Chris's school is the inspiration, and he puts a lot of that down to the creativity aspect of the way they teach and creativity. Drew, what are your thoughts around creativity in education and business and life?
I would say creativity is just big in anything. I mean, I don't meet many people that goes, I just want to stay where I am. And I think sometimes people like to be in a comfort zone, but, Einstein's definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Give us a wave, Miss Nolan's coming past. And lovely Miss Atkinson's coming past. Sorry, Drew,
hello,
for interrupting you there.
Drew was peeking on his TED talk, and we had a bit of a walk by there. That's.
It's probably more interesting than what I was saying.
Go on, Chris.
Go on, Drew. Carry on.
Go on.
Go on. I think the creativity drive is what I'm saying here is it's big because nobody wants to just stay as they are. People want to get better. People want to achieve more, experience more, be more. And I think it's the creative spark that is important. And of course, COVID has given us a great opportunity to reflect on a lot of stuff that we do. And I think it's actually forced us in a corner to have to be creative sometimes. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think businesses, I think sports teams, I think schools, I'm not suggesting we'd have wanted this and we'd asked for it and we'd want it to happen again. But I do think there will be, as we reflect on this, there will be things we can take out of what we've experienced this year, and we'll be better for it.
I mean, we've done a lot
we're
of...
we're entering into a brand new world, sort of now, where, you know, we've seen Debenhams have just gone bust, and Topshop and Topman, and the high street is never ever going to be the same again. So there's going to have to be new jobs. There's going to have to be lots of creativity in finding these sort of new roles, you know. And it all, as I said, comes down to inspiration. I mean, I've just brought my phone out here now, just to show you the kind of things that we sort of do. We've got lovely Ros Wilson that works in school, is now a governor. We've got a lovely pre-COVID, lovely Drew Povey arms round and things. And we want to get back to this. But, you know, we celebrate absolutely everything and everyone that comes into school, whether it's Jamie Redknapp, whether it's the lovely Jazz, you know, it's Dean Lomax, you know, we take them on helicopter rides. We're lucky enough to be TES winners and then being shortlisted for every other prize for the last few years. We've had Louis Smith in there, Harry Gratian, a great friend of the school. Nick's coming up on Friday, actually. You'll get to see him and things. Might be able to do a few words. So our great friend Russell Howard, with all the filming we've done for that. Lovely Monty Panesar's been in this term. So, you know, all these different people have got a different sort of creative skill, you know, but it engages all the different children and things, so.
Fantastic. Well, I know we've got to crack on, but I know you're running a fairly tight ship today, Mr. Dyson, so I don't want to keep Drew much longer. Passing words, Drew, words, advice, parents, teachers, community, what your thoughts are as we go into a brave new year, new decade?
Two things from me. Don't forget to kind of rest up and switch off over Christmas. I think more than ever before it's needed. I think sometimes Christmas can not be a holiday. It can be like an experience where we're running all over the place. I think people do need to recharge. I also think we do need an eye on 2021. And I'm not wanting to, you know, get ahead of ourselves, but COVID's not done yet. I think a lot of people are waiting for 2020 to disappear and everything's going to be fine. I think we're going to hit 2021 and it'll be January and it'll be the start of a new year. And January can always be a bit of a tricky time of year anyway, if you look at the stats. So it's preparing ourselves and energizing ourselves for the start of a new year. And literally, we're going to have to go again.
What do you say to that, Chris?
Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely brilliant, you know, because 2021, we're not out of the woods yet and things. And up till Easter time, it's going to be pretty similar to as it is now. So it's about everyone working together, being together. I'm going to meet up with Drew on the 27th of December to go for a lovely walk because I'm out literally staying 2 minutes from his house. So that's going to be great. Perhaps we can do a Zoom call with you while we're there, Nick.
That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Yeah, I'll watch you having a nice time. Drew just told me to have a week off. I'm not Skyping you, mate.
Listen, thanks for inviting me on this today.
Thank you both.
Beautiful.
Absolutely lovely.
Aim high 20 on Friday. Big love, Drew.
Beautiful. Take care, guys. All the very best.
Thank you both. Lovely job. Cheers. Well, there you go. Two utter legends. Drew Povey from Salford, Chris Dyson from Manchester. Two of the most generous people I know. But nothing. I wouldn't be here without those two. Just fantastic. Wonderful. And here we are back at Parklands. Wonderful to hear those two chatting there. Lovely, two amazing guys. So what's next, Malumba? What we got now? Richard Simpson, book time. I've got some books here. I want to show you some of my books. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a 30-second whiz through some of my favourite books. So if you want to think about books for Christmas, that's that one. I'm going to play a little film actually. I just wanted to show you this film. This is what we did in the summer because today, so that picture there, that's the Parklands Primary on the Seacroft estate in East Leeds, and all over there you can see is Parklands Primary, is Seacroft. I did have it up on the Google actually. Let's see if we've still got that. Let's see if we've still got our Google view of Seacroft. Let's do that. Let's have a look. Oh, maybe it doesn't want to do it. What's going on? Come on. So this is Seacroft. This is an estate just down the road, just where Parklands Primary is based, where we were yesterday. Today the community have been very busy. Oh, my internet doesn't seem to want to work there. I don't know what's wrong with that. Oh well, not to worry. So today the community have been very busy all around on the estate there. Travis Perkins gave us a whole load of wood. Grandad Glenn has got a maker space, a little yard and woodwork space. So he's been knocking stuff up. And bit of a delay today. I just expect everything happens in 10 seconds. It's a hell of a lot of work. And I know that Glenn was up most of last night and up early this morning at it. So it's all built. They've built an art gallery basically, and they're going to roll it out tomorrow. So when we're up at Yorkshire Sculpture Park tomorrow, they're going to put the art stuff out around SEACROFT estate. It's going to be absolutely lovely. And the inspiration for that, if you like, or the inspiration, was an event that we did in the summer called Art Camp. And I just want to run this little film, and after this we'll do the books and we'll talk to Richard Simpson. Hold tight. 10 years ago we went to Camp Bestville for the first time and just had a wonderful time and thought, how can we bring this creativity back to our kids' school? And we started Steamco, running mini creativity festivals in schools. This summer in lockdown we've done a Parliament launch event, we did 3-day pop-up virtual events at Eden Project, we did Your Glasgow where we built a cardboard pyramid stage in a school playing field just down the road from Glastonbury. And we thought, how can we beat that? Well, here we are at the School of Art and Wellbeing in Devon. When we would otherwise have been at Camp Bestville, which was obviously cancelled, we've had a fantastic team of people pull together a weekend event, #ArtCamp20. We had a range of creative activities for families to get involved with, not just here, but live streamed onto the internet. We had an eclectic art trail in a meadow out front where we literally mowed a path through the grass and filled it with art of people that we knew, people we reached out to, and also people in the local community as well. Our lighting designer created the most incredible night trail that was just mind-blowing. And we've had just a fantastic time with performances, with talks, with community engagement activities and creative workshops. The kids built a castle because, inspired by Camp Bestville again, inspired by the venue, the setting, Lulworth Castle, we decided to set out to build castles in the sky. A phrase that so typically implies not being really supposed to be thinking or aiming above your station. To inspire kids to not just aim high, but higher than high, and to aim as high as those castles in the sky. We built a cardboard castle. We built several. And at the end of the day, we realised it's all about connection, it's about community, it's about people. And it's people that have made this event possible here at Art Camp 20. And we want to roll this out across the UK now. For the rest of the summer, we want to run events like this, and we reach out to partners who've helped us in the past, people like Barclays, people like Google, people like CassArt, to help us again deliver these events, deliver these activities for people not only here, but elsewhere across the internet and across the world. Thanks for listening. If you'll support us as a patron or a patron by being a part of what we're doing with your art, do get in touch now. So, just about to go to Richard Simpson, actually, on the Isle of Wight, who's a fantastic, fantastic educator.
I found a way to run my old computers.
Did you? Okay, well, we don't need to hear about that for the moment, do we? So, get ready for Richard. I want to show you some of my favourite books. Here's a lovely one. Neil Gaiman and our good friend, is that a bit too bright there? Our friend Chris Riddle, who's done some illustration stuff with this. Oh, it's a green cover. That's not very good on the old green screen, is it? Can I adjust that a little bit? That is a wonderful book. If you know anybody who's into creativity, then that's a book that they'll love. There we go. Oh, that's interesting. So when I block the light out, it goes a bit weird. Okay, so Art Matters, Neil Gaiman and Chris Riddle. Lovely little book about creativity and art. One of those lovely special little books. Every parent needs this. Forget the apps, forget the tech. Get this book from Michael Rosen. Good ideas. How to be yours and your child's best teacher. Absolutely fantastic book. The book that changed my life. My dad found this book in an Oxfam bookshop. Rocket Boys by Homer Hickam. About 4 boys who looked to the sky and saw a bright light in the sky. It was a Sputnik. They were inspired to make rockets and ended up working for NASA. Check that out. That's an amazing story. Best book my dad's ever read. Crown House Publishing have been fantastic to us over the years. Very, very supportive. One book that really is very inspiring to us is this guy, Seth Godin. This is a book called Your Turn, about getting up and actually doing something, changing your life for the better and making a big difference. And it's all gone a bit weird, isn't it, my green screen? Is it because it's a bit dark in here? Yeah, we haven't got any other light. I have to get another light in here. So it's Your Turn. Lovely, lovely book. And you can only get that in the UK from bookshops. It's the only bookshop that sells that is Crown House. They've still got a few copies of that. And I know that you can get it on Amazon, I think, now. But get it from a local supplier, because they also published this book, which I think is absolutely brilliant. This is the book that every parent and every teacher who cares about education should be checking out. Educating Ruby, a story about a young girl who, and it's a story about a young girl, but it's actually presented as a way of understanding ways that we could educate and change. That's a really good book for someone like Leah. Now we've got 3 copies of this to give away. So if 3 people, the first 3 people to type their name in the search box on whatever platform you're on and get it up on screen, you can have a copy of that for free. So Educating Ruby, because Crown House has given us 3 copies of this by Professor Bill Lucas and Professor Guy Claxton. Fantastic book. Got 3 copies of that. If you're a teacher, that's for the parents. If you're a teacher, you'll love this book. This is Teaching Creative Thinking. And this is a more academic book for educators about how you can teach creativity in schools, not just as one subject, but teaching it across the subjects. Thomas Tallis School, it's brilliant. This is really cool. This is the Bill Lucas's methodology there, as interpreted by Thomas Tallis, Creative Habits. That's really, really good. This is the book that I just love. This is The Icarus Deception. I was hoping David Waring from Kelsall School in Cheshire was going to talk to us today, because this inspired him, it inspired me, and this is just a great book. How High Will You Fly? This is about art. Art isn't frightening. Art isn't pretty. Art isn't painting. Art isn't something you hang on the wall. Art is what we do when we're truly alive, and that's why we wear the t-shirts so proudly. Another crazy little book here for the crazy dads in your life, and I guess I'm in that territory. David Almond. Oh, the lights are very bright in here. David Almond, My Dad's a Birdman. Love this. I love this. Dad is building a pair of wings, eating flies and feathering his nest. Auntie Doris is getting cross and making dumplings. Mr. Poop is parading the streets, shouting louder and louder. And Mr. Mint, the head teacher, is getting in a flap, and watching it all is little Lizzie, missing her mam and looking after Dad and thinking how beautiful the birds are, because her dad dresses up like a bird and is pretending to fly over the River Tyne for a beer with Carol Allen. So that's a great story for the crazy dads out there. This is another very popular book. This is Look Up, one for Simon Smith and his Picture Book Club. I'm sure he's got 10 copies of this. Lovely book by Nathan Bryan. And in fact, it's just reminded me that I wanted to get in touch. There's a lovely thing called the Pocket Theatre or something down in Islington in North London. And they bring a lot of these storybooks to life with little poppets and pop-up puppets and stuff. And I really wanted that, but we couldn't do everything. And this is a book that is very special to me, Armstrong, which is a book that I got in the post. You know when you get those books from Amazon or something like that, and you think, well, I don't remember ordering that. Oh my goodness, I don't remember ordering that. Blimey, you find a little slip of paper and it says, I hope you enjoy this, Nick. Lots of love and thanks for everything from Richard Simpson. And it was very, very special. It's a book about a lovely little mouse who goes to space. Lovely, lovely drawings in here. Look at this. Beautifully illustrated, but it actually tells the story of the space race through the eyes of a little mouse. I mean, what's not to like about that? Beautiful book. That's very, very special. I do treasure that, because when I press this button here and I press that button there, on screen is my dear friend Richard Simpson from the Isle of Wight. And this is what I have to say, can you hear me on the Isle of Wight?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, my friend. I can hear you.
Excellent. How are you? Got the hang of it.
We've done this a couple of times, haven't we? How are you today?
I'm very well. How are you?
I think there's an absolutely K word in the mix on this one, actually, I must admit. My goodness, we got up about 2 o'clock in the morning Thursday night or Friday morning, did a whole day with, I mean, just being in a room with Chris Dyson is tiring, let alone setting up kit for 2 hours and taking it down. Then we had to drive to an undisclosed location. Here we are, back to back all day, and here we are. So what's going on, Mr. Simpson? What have you been up to lately?
Just getting back into the hang of being in school full time and dealing with the ins and outs of day-to-day life in classrooms with COVID, to be fair. It's, yeah.
Full on, isn't it?
Keep going with, luckily, touch wood, we haven't had too many incidences down here, so we're in tier 1. I don't want to boast about it, but life is easier for us than it is for a lot of other people. We can be a bit more out and about, still being careful, but yeah, it's a bit more relaxed down here, which is nice. And I've got my full class of 30 children back in day to day, which is lovely to be able to see them all and have that face to face again, which I know lots of schools are on the online learning platform. So I've managed to avoid that so far, thank goodness.
Well, I had a bit of an encounter with your class. Tell everybody about that day when we had a bit of an encounter. It was rainy, wasn't it? I seem to remember.
It was raining, which didn't help your rocket launch, did it, at the end of the day?
We did it, though.
It was also World Book Day, so I think you did your assembly to a whole of nearly 200 children dressed as anything from Where's Wally to Little Red Riding Hood to James Bond, to all sorts in there. It was quite quite an action-packed day. But yeah, no, great fun. And I think you did manage to launch the rocket in the end, eventually.
We did launch it, and we've actually got a little bit of video of it going off as well, actually, I must admit. It looks like you've got a bit of a fan here. We've got Chris Dyson, who's getting a bit loved up on you, Richard. What's he say here? Say hi to Rich Shawmy. I've been chatting to him earlier, getting excited for this. You are Twitter's celebrity when you got banter going on with Chris Dyson in the green room.
Well, if only. I'm just jealous of his. He's got a book vending machine in his school. He's got one of the vending. They've repurposed it to give out books instead of chocolate. I'd love one of them. I've been putting a bit of a call out on Twitter for anyone who's got a second-hand one on the Isle of Wight that could be donated. I'm quite happy. DM me, give me a message. I'd love one for my school. It's
funny, actually, because I'm not I know Chris isn't precious about any of his ideas. He takes what works, and it's all about sharing inspiration. That's what the Teach Meet thing's all about. That's what Brewed's all about. And I think the first time I saw that was an event that Ed Finch ran, actually, down in Oxford Reading Spree. And there's an amazing guy there called Colin Tucker who had that book thing. I don't know if he was first, but he had lots of those sort of innovations. He's an incredibly innovative guy, does all his video editing, does all his Adobe Premiere and all that stuff. He's really, really brilliant. And wherever Chris got it from, I know that those kids, they walk in that building every day through that reception. They look at that vending machine, they think, I want that book and I'm going to work hard for it. And these are the little, I mean, Chris talks about carrot and stick. You know, that has got to be the ultimate, isn't it? And if you can get a child to see a book as a carrot, you're doing a blooming good job of teaching. I'm sure you'd agree with that. So Richard, you had a bit of a baptism of fire, I think, when I came in there, didn't you? We baptised you. How did we baptise you, and what's been the outcome of that, young man?
Well, I didn't have a Twitter account until you decided to not force me into. I won't say for you. Highly recommended it. We had a good chat about books, didn't we? And you said it might be a good way to get in touch with a few other people about books, and it's gone from there. I've set up a little website where I've been doing a few book reviews. I've been involved in a couple of the Breweds that you mentioned earlier. Made some really good contacts with some publishers and authors, which has had an impact on my class because they've sent me books and we've been able to do some author interviews and things like that as well. So it's been brilliant. The Twitter community around children's books in particular is amazing. The recommendations that people give to each other, the ideas for work, the time that authors give up to talk to people, and the time that people give up to give back to authors, to be fair as well. It's just a really nice community. I know Drew talked earlier about there being some negativity on Twitter, and there is that side of it, but there's also an awful lot of positives that come from it. And the book recommendations for me, I love reading, I love talking about books. It's given me another platform where I can blether on about books to people. And so, yeah, I'm loving it. And thank you very much for giving me that first push, Nick, to be honest.
Well, I get. I mean, you've become a bit of a legend, haven't you? Because I mean, it strikes me you're getting a few books in the post as well, are you, from these publishers? You on that list?
I've had a couple. Yeah, I've had a couple. Which is lovely because we're a very small school on the island and we're really struggling for money. And so it's really nice because some of the books that I've got go straight into the classroom. So, you know, if it means I read it and put a review on and that gives the publicity for the publishers, I get a free copy of the book that the children get to enjoy, then it's a win-win situation, isn't it?
Fair enough. No, fantastic. It's funny because I used to be a DJ, actually. I did be a DJ, bedroom DJ, and DJed in a few parties and clubs, and you used to have to go and buy the records in the record shops, and they're quite expensive on import and white labels to get the early ones, but there were record lists. If you could get on a record company's list and get the records for free, it was great to get them for free, but you got them early as well. And I mean, if you can get onto that circuit, because let's face it, how many followers have you got now on Twitter from nothing?
I think I'm at 5,500.
Mate, that took me like 4 years. That did. You know, I'm not very happy about that. I'm quite jealous. So
I think they're all just your followers that have jumped on, Nick. To be fair, you did the hard work.
I don't know about that. I think you've got a level of authenticity and passion for a subject that's very important. I mean, who are you? I mean, who are your top three? If you had to sort of pick 3 or 5 big education tweeters on reading, particularly both parents, kids. You know, not too academic, Ooh. But
wow, that's pressure to put on people. I've just got involved with Toria Bono, who runs the Tiny Voice Tuesday on a Tuesday, and she started doing a book talk session on a Tuesday night. We did the first one a couple of weeks ago. I think it's had nearly 2,000 views, and it was myself, another educator called Sharif Ali, Toria, Richard O'Neill, and the author Vashti Hardy. And we just spent an hour thrashing out ideas about reading and why it's important and talking about books. So those four definitely. It was a really nice atmosphere and a really good talk to have around that. There's so many, Nick. There's
don't worry. No, it's okay if I've stumped you.
Mr. Chris Harris, who's a brilliant deputy head teacher, who does lots of blogs and talks about books. Andrew Ruff, who runs a Sunday morning book blether session, is absolutely brilliant. You've mentioned a couple. You mentioned Simon Smith. You've got Ben Harris, who's on there as well. John Biddle. John Biddle does a brilliant, and Chris Harris have got a brilliant list of independent bookshops and independent authors to buy things from. They both manage that, which is really nice. And I think everybody needs to have a big push on buying from authors and independent bookshops at the minute.
Well, and between you've got the buying power to do that, haven't you?
Yeah, the amount of money that authors get for books is not a lot. I think there's a bit of a misconception around authors being these celebrities living in, fancy London houses, earning big bucks. And yet, certainly some of them do, but I think for the majority of them, it's a struggle, particularly with visits and bookshop openings and, live launches of books at the minute, all being limited because of COVID. A lot of their extra income has gone, and if they're not getting the big commission from books, I mean, it can be pence that they get when they sell through the company that should not be mentioned for buying books, whereas if you buy direct from them, it can be in the pounds, and that's a big difference, isn't it?
Absolutely. I thought I had a copy of my book actually. I meant to plug that a minute ago. Here you go. There's one here. So nobody would publish a book for me, even though there's no money in it. So I just wrote my own. You remember that? Chris Dyson made this happen. Rocket Kids Stories, 9 stories, about 10-minute stories for parents to read with their kids. Chris Dyson gave one of those to every child in the school. Wowzers, yes, let's get everyone reading and spending quality time with their kids. Can't argue with Chris Dyson on that sort of stuff. So if you don't need a publisher, if you've got an audience, if you can get, I mean, I've done 1,500 of those, but and you've got Grandad Wheels, obviously, as well. He's on tomorrow. So, Richard, do you want to sort of have a little bit of a chat for sort of 10 minutes? Have you got something lined up? You wanted to take us through some favourite books? Do you want to do that? Because I know Chris Dyson's hanging on the end of his sofa.
You've taken a couple off my list already, Nick.
Oh, sorry, mate.
I had Look Up ready to talk about. Oh, let's go that way. I had Look Up ready to talk about, which is a brilliant book. And what I really like about that one is the message of look up from your phone. It's not just look up to the stars and aim high for the stars. It's look up from your phone, because there's a character in there who's glued to his mobile phone, and his little sister Rocket, the girl in this book, is desperate for his attention, because she's desperate to see a meteor shower that's going on, but the brother's constantly on his phone and doesn't want to look up, and that all changes at the end, and it's just a really, really lovely story. I think it's won a couple of awards recently as well. Published by Penguin. Nathan Byron's the author, and Dapo Adeola as the illustrator for that, and it's just a really, really nice book with some nice messages in that one.
And as I said earlier, actually, there's a theatre company, a little puppet theatre company in Islington, and they've dramatised that. Have you come across their work?
I haven't. No.
I'll look that up while you're.
Out, unfortunately, on a lot of that stuff down in the islands, because
yeah, but it's all gone online now.
The costs involved in getting across are quite substantial.
Yeah, no, it's all online at the moment. So they've made little short videos, and I was hoping to get them involved in this. I just forgot. I had a conversation about 3 months ago, and suddenly here I am in Yorkshire. I'll see if I can dig it up for you, because they do the lovely little dramatisations, little finger puppets, and tiny little things. I actually went there one night to a theatre show, and it's just wonderful seeing. When you're so used to either the big stage productions or the big Glastonbury bands, and then you just go and see 4 people behind a black screen doing puppets. It's beautiful, really, really lovely. Sorry, mate, carry on.
No, the other one I was going to plug was Armstrong, but you've done that already. That is just a wonderful book. The story, the illustrations. I love the idea of a mouse following its dreams is quite a nice metaphor, isn't it, for one of the smallest creatures on the planet ending up, going to the moon, following his dreams. And I love the fact that a lot of that one's based on historical fiction. Like you said, it's actually the story of the space race. So just a brilliant book. Really like that one.
Writing's not that easy.
A couple of other this one, which is a couple of years old now, but this one came out round about the time Tim Peake was on the space station. and it's all about two boys whose dad's an astronaut, and they're dreaming of joining him. And it just it made me think of your Rocket Boys story and setting your dream on the stars and following your dream. There's a really nice introduction letter from Tim Peake at the start of it, which introduces it. And it's just a really nice sort of rhyming book, possibly for younger children, about these two boys dreaming of going up to space where their dad is. And then obviously, you know, they go up and they join him at the space station. He's waving out the window. It's just a really nice one, again, about following your dreams, following parents, that inspirational figure. In this case, it's their dad. You know, and they go to sleep with the postcard from space, dreaming of joining him. So that's a lovely one. And I wasn't sure if you wanted kids' book or grown-up books, Nick. So, you know, it's coming up to Christmas time, so there might be a few grown-ups looking for a nice book in the post. And I've mentioned him already, but this guy and this autobiography is absolutely brilliant.
Is it really?
So Tim Peake, this is his autobiography. Just a really interesting guy, really interesting story. You know, talking about his time in the army, helicopter pilot, going the whole way through up into space, and really sort of motivational and aspirational, talking about how he got there and the challenges and things like that as well. So just a really nice read as well. I think there's probably sections of that, you know, that you could take out and read in school with children as well. So perfectly good to use in classroom as a motivational speaker as well. He does a lot of stuff online, I think, as well. So you could probably find clips of that. So that's a nice one. You talked about Sputnik with Laika, the dog. I don't think you talked about Laika, sorry. Laika's in this book. But you talked about Homer Hickam. And one of his inspirations, wasn't it, was seeing Sputnik traveling across the sky.
That's right.
So this book is by one of your favourites, I think, Frank Cottrell Boyce.
Oh, yeah.
Who we spoke to at the Kids Book Festival, didn't we?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Is that a new one, is it?
It's not a new one. This one came out for World Book Day when you were in school. This is one of this year's World Book Day books.
So it was last year,
I think.
Fest.
So it's one of the ones that children could pick up with their free voucher, or it was £1 in the shops. And this one's about a dog called Laika that wants to go to space. And again, loosely based on historical fact with the Sputnik mission, where they did send dogs up into space before humans. This one's told from the perspective of one of the dogs. And the idea is that, you know, some of these dogs didn't come back. So did they get lost in space, or what happened? Well, there's an interesting ending to this one where she meets aliens and comes back to space, and it talks about the universe maybe not being as straightforward as you think. So just a really nice sort of short read, that one as well. And I quite like that. I really like the idea of World Book Day and those £1 books to get children hooked in reading. It's a bit like Chris Dyson, his book machine, isn't it? You know, it makes books accessible. Schools can get those vouchers. Every school, every child in every school, primary school, should get a voucher, and they should be able to buy one of those books. And that's coming up again in March, World Book Day. So if you're a teacher and your school hasn't registered for those, I would recommend getting those. Get in touch with your local bookshop. I don't usually like plugging big bookshops, but Waterstones on the Isle of Wight were absolutely brilliant this year. With COVID closing down, they hadn't sold an awful lot of their stock of World Book Day books, and they donated nearly 300 books, I think it was, that they hadn't sold of these World Book Day books, and allowed me to distribute them around several schools on the island. So my good friend Graham Andre at Lane's End got a few. And about half a dozen other schools on the island got a good bonus to their boost to their school library of books. So thank you very much to them for that.
Fantastic. No, I mean, that's the first time Graham's name's come up today, actually. I haven't seen the tweets. I don't know if he's been tweeting and stuff, because he's a massive supporter and a great teacher, isn't he? Good friend of Chris Dyson's as well.
Lovely chap. I might have to see if I can meet him for a pint now that we're allowed in the pubs down here.
Yeah, Chris Dyson wasn't very happy about that. He popped a little note up saying, Tier 1, how lucky is that?
I know.
There's nobody on the Isle of Wight, is there? You and a few sheep, isn't it? You, Graham, and a few sheep. Yeah, that's it, yeah. I've got a couple more if you want me to keep going. Yeah, go for it, yeah.
Yeah, there's this one, which is interesting. You know, it's not just books. This is a National Geographic magazine that came out, and it was a special edition called Everything Space. And National Geographic, their website's absolutely brilliant. But what I love about that is it's the photography inside it and the fact books, the facts that come with it. And I think I've said this before, but lots of children who find fiction intimidating, pages and pages of just story and text, non-fiction can be quite a nice way into that reading for them, because you've got the balance of, you can read it in short bits or short chapters, and you like the STEM aspect of it, I suppose. A lot of the time the non-fiction books are around the idea of technology or machinery, fact-based stuff like history and things like that. So you can get, it's another way in for those reluctant readers if we need to get them reading. What else have we got? I picked this one. I talked about Richard O'Neill earlier as part of the Tiny Voice book club with Victoria. This is one of his books, and it's a Romany story. He's a Romany storyteller and picture book author. And this book's about a little girl called Osiri who is desperate to be a musician, and is told that her family can't afford the musical instrument for her to be able to play. So she goes and makes her own. She doesn't lose track of her dream, and she goes off into the woods and she makes her own musical instrument. Now, as with most parents whose children bring home an instrument for the first time, it's not a particularly pleasant learning curve. It's not a nice noise to start with, but she perseveres and practices, and it's just a really lovely story about persevering, making your own instrument. It's one of those traditional tales that's been told and passed down through generations. It's from a different voice as well. The Romany folk tale, the Romany community voice, is one that there probably aren't very many stories out there. So I think it's really important that we get those stories and that background and that community's voice heard as well. So a really nice story. Could be one of your projects in school, Nick. You could have people making musical instruments as well as rockets.
Well, we've done that. We actually, down in Wellington College Festival of Education, when they allowed us in, we had a bunch of people down there with Rachel Snape, actually, called Utterly Butterly, and they run a workshop where they make a ukulele out of a margarine tub and a bit of wood. Do you remember that, Malumba? The Utterly Butterly, the ukuleles they made from margarine tubs and bits of wood. It was lovely, and they played tunes on them. It was great. It was really good. Yeah. So, Rich, well, thanks for that, mate. Have you managed to catch much of today's nonsense?
I saw a bit this morning, and then had some other housework and bits and pieces to do. So I tuned in to watch the Drew Povey and Chris Dyson interview that you just did as well. So that was really interesting to listen to.
Tonight's going to be brilliant. Let's just do a quick preview of what's coming up tonight. So we're going to wrap up now. November, I think.
We are indeed.
And then we are back at 7 o'clock.
Yes, we are.
Chris Sullivan Fire Pit Chats, is it?
It is.
So Chris Sullivan Fire Pit Chats at 7. Is that an hour or half an hour?
It's going to be half an hour because Monique is incognito.
Right. Okay. So half an hour with him with Lockie.
With Lockie from Scotland.
So Lockie is a Scottish rapper, poet, DJ guy. A lot about creativity, mental health, that sort of stuff. Then 8 o'clock, it's the Nightlight Trail. So can you join into that, Rich? You get your kids, maybe put a torch in a paper bag or something and be part of the night trail. Fancy that?
The 8 o'clock's past their bedtime.
Oh, is it? Sorry, that was a blunder on my part, wasn't it? Yeah.
They haven't heard you suggest it either. If they'd heard that, I would have had no option but to get involved with that.
Oh my goodness, maybe we've done it an hour, so we've done it too late, haven't we? We should have done it at 7. Oh dear. Oh well, so they're all going to be in bed, Malumba. You haven't got kids, you don't understand. So his kids are in bed at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock?
Yeah, well, they're children.
That's scandalous.
Well, Richard wants to have an evening as well. You're actually quite glad to get you. I can't get my kids don't go to bed till 2 in the morning. That does my head in.
Hi Malumba, by the way, in the background.
Richard says hello.
Hello, Richard.
We haven't got any speakers in here. It's all previews. We get feedback if not careful. So Malumba's just sitting there in the dark and in the quiet. Chris Dyson says, let them stay up, lol.
Is Chris volunteered to babysit and look after them? That'd be fine. No
well,
problem. I can go out to the pub. We're in tier 1.
I tell you what, mate. Chris Dyson would jump on a plane to come down for some tier 1 action. He says, brilliant. I think Chris is our #1 viewer today. He's the only person who's popping in comments. It's great. Drew Povey's been watching it. That was good. There it was. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So, right. So, what else? So, that's then at 8:30, we've got Boff Wiley. That's going to be brilliant. We're going to get Chris up on stage, on this cardboard stage. if we finish it. I haven't had much progress at the moment. It's not much more advanced than you can see there, actually, just a pile of boxes. Might have some technical issues there, whatever. Then at 9 o'clock it is Alex, is it?
Alex Spencer.
Alex Spencer, who's a busker from Manchester.
And may I point out that he's 11 years old, so he's still going to be up.
Oh, does it? You give Richard a hard time. His kids are like 6 and 7. So he's living a rock and roll lifestyle, and he's only 11. So that's going to be brilliant. Then at 9:30, got the mighty Titania, who are the Parkland Schoolhouse Band, which is with Luke, Mr. I forgot his name now. Luke, what's his name? So he's one of the young teachers at Parklands, and he's going. I've seen the videos. They are going to absolutely smash it. It's going to be brilliant.
I saw Chris Dyson doing a Bon Jovi cover yesterday.
Did you? Is
that
when he rips his clothes off?
Yeah.
I think it must be year 6.
That's definitely post watershed, isn't it? You know, kids definitely need to be in bed for that type of carry on.
Yeah, when Chris Dyson starts stripping off in year 6 Christmas carols. Luke Goodwin is a Titania band man. Thanks for that, Chris. So I'm gonna wrap this now, I think. Richard, thank you so much for joining us today. You've been absolutely fantastic as ever.
No problem, Nick.
We've got. I'll tell you what. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock is going to be fantastic. We've got a chap called David Gilday. You know, the guy who makes the Lego robots for doing the Rubik's cubes.
I've seen that.
So he's coming on, and he has got. So he's developed a new robot using the new Lego kit, which you can buy still in the shops. And we got sent 200 Rubik's Cubes from Rubik's Cubes. So we've got 200 of those out there. We gave one to everybody in year 5 and 6 at Parklands yesterday, and they're the talk of the estate. So I would love to see somebody flashing a torch on a Rubik's Cube on the Seacroft estate, or doing something creative with their Rubik's Cube. So we're going to push that out on Facebook and get that buzzing. So that's 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, we're doing the competition to win one of those. And I can't really remember what's going on, to be honest. We've got loads of stuff, so it's all good fun. Thank you very much for joining us, Richard. One love. You are a superstar teacher, one of many. Nothing without you. Thanks so much for connecting, continued support, and sharing some of your insights around reading. Really appreciate it.
No problem, Nick. Thank you. Take care. Have a good weekend.
Take it easy, man. Bye-bye. Well, there you go. Richard Simpson down there on the south coast in the Isle of Wight, Tier 1, making Chris Dyson very jealous. I'm going to just cut to this little film here, actually. This is our Rubik's Cubes promo film. Let's start that again, shall we? Should we do it properly?
Screw up. I've always been a little rough around the edges, but I'm a rock star. Ooh, I'm a rock star.
So there's a little taster of our theme song for the festival from City Lights, who sadly weren't able to do their performance because of a COVID scare at the studio they were going to do their stream from, so that was unfortunate. So tonight, just so everybody knows, the hashtag Nightlight Trail, which is a virtual event, so we don't want anybody leaving home, we don't want anybody going out. It's for the Seacroft Community Estate. It's also for people all over the country, but the prizes are purely exclusively for Seacroft residents. The prizes being 10 Christmas decorations. So if you'd like one of these on your house, maybe you'd like a snowflake, maybe you'd like some of those lovely icicle lights. There was a train, although I think we might have to give that to somebody up there anyway, so that we might have the train. We've got some ponies, all sorts of stuff there. Got about 10 of those to give away. And all you have to do is join us on our nightlight trail, hashtag nightlight trail at 8 o'clock. So we're going to publish a link on Zoom. You go in on that and you'll be able to show your nightlight and flash that up on the screen. We'll have half an hour of nightlight stuff, and then we'll pick 10 people, and then we've got somebody on the Seacroft estate who's got the prizes, and they're going to deliver them to you tomorrow. And then tomorrow night we'll have a little Christmas light thing. We'll get somebody to walk around Seacroft estate showing us all the lights, because all the houses, some of the houses there are really beautifully done up. So that's the vibe, that's how we're rolling tomorrow night. I'm going to sign off now. We're going to be back at 7 o'clock with Chris Sullivan Fire Pit Chats with Lockie, who's a Scottish rapper. Talks about creativity, art and mental health. And then, got a great Saturday night. Cancel your Netflix subscription. Cancel your Sky Sports. This is the only place to be. Hashtag aim high 20. You know that. You absolutely know that. Don't miss Boff Wally tonight.
A world made of islands, connected by sound, vibrations of molecules flying around, recorded as data and sent down the wires, ones and noughts to make up a choir, joining together, listening together, working together, making a start, singing together when we're together and singing together apart.
Ministers have just announced Christmas will be different this year for thousands of us. New measures are...
Can I come? Come on! I am! I'm coming! Ready? Yeah.
You see, I grew up a bloody screw up. I've always been a little rough around the edges. I run the streets all day where we would play, blowing chase and hopping over fences. Youths offended, bad decisions, good intentions, poor attendance, skip detention. Living life's the only way you ever learn your lesson. Authorities couldn't handle him in hindsight.